Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce, and my good friend Greg Terry from the famous Greg Terry Experience. Here we are in this festive period, coming to you live from two corners of the globe. Greg, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great, JP. And first of all, I know we look at things differently, but Merry Christmas to you, and Happy Holidays, and Happy Hanukkah, and Happy celebration of Uranus and Neptune aligning, and Happy New Year.
I didn't know that my anus was going to come into it. No, Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm, in fact, because it's that time of year and it's that time of night for me, or evening, I'm going to crack into, if you don't mind, Greg, a Badger Golden Champion, which is a golden ale with crisp and refreshing with hints of elderflower. So if you don't mind, that's going to keep. And the reason why I need this right now, mate, is because I was just getting really angry again, looking at my feeds about what's going on with regard to the news concerning the supposed strikes on Putin's own residence and the reaction, and supposedly a phone call with Trump again when Trump is super angry. And I was hoping to start the video off with that because I think it's an absolute outrage.
Please do. Let me tell you, before we do that, okay, so I live in northwestern Pennsylvania when I'm not in Ukraine or traveling in other nations, and we have had a massive weather shift. It was 60 degrees at 2 to 3 a.m., and now it is 27 and a blizzard, heavy winds. The reason we are a couple minutes late starting is because my power went out. Prior to that, Professor Gertis and I are doing a joint fundraiser with Project Constantine. That video just dropped this second while we're on this live. Everything's all discombobulated, but we're here and there's a lot to talk about. And let me tell you something. Let's just go through it, because I'm still trying to get over the president of the United States standing beside President Zelensky saying that Putin wants peace and Putin loves Ukraine and Putin wants to rebuild Ukraine.
I honestly, mate,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, mate. We may have a rant session here. I'm still getting over that the Mariupol Drama Theater has now reopened and they are gloating about it while they are dancing on the bones of children.
I haven't mentioned that to my audience.
So we're going to have an adventure, brother. And
yeah,
for those of you on my channel that are new and have never seen Johnny and I do videos together, we've traveled all over Ukraine together. We're very dear personal friends. We see things on many topics oppositely, but on the most important things, we agree wholeheartedly, and we do not allow the opposites to take apart our friendship and recognizing that we can learn from each other. So we have a very close personal relationship, and that's why he might light my fuse and I may light his, and I'm typically not ranting, but he's already tippling, so it could be dangerous.
My fuse was lit from yesterday. So it's interesting. One of my viewers said, I started watching Greg's synopsis of the peace negotiation talks yesterday and the press conference. Said I had to turn Greg off, and it wasn't because Greg was annoying me, but I just couldn't. I was just
agreed. But we had to put it out.
Oh yeah.
We have to document it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, my favorite analyst I follow in Ukraine, everything's in Ukrainian and I translate it. He watched it and he wrote, well, the good news is nothing blew up, meaning as far as relational, there was no fights.
Yeah.
And secondly, our president represented our Ukrainian integrity. Now everybody go to bed. See you in the morning. That was his whole message.
And you know what? I did a fairly short synopsis of it this morning, and I didn't go into the bits that really made me angry. And there are a bunch more that made me quite angry with what Trump was saying. I did include the part about, how Putin is really interested in sort of Ukraine succeeding. You're like, no, oh my goodness. If you think that, you don't understand Putin and you don't understand the war. You understand nothing. What are you doing this? So that was, and that was a quote really that summed up everything. Like, you don't need to know anything else about what went on in those discussions yesterday. When you have Trump saying something like that, it's just right now. I understand that Trump really is just on Putin's side, and he actually genuinely seems to believe that Putin has the best interests of Ukraine at heart. Like, he doesn't understand that 4 years of war has involved humongous amounts of despicable activities that show that Putin is nothing less than a moral monster. And so how you can then go, oh, he's really interested in Ukraine's success. I mean, just honestly, that was enough for me. But then we have a couple of things. First of all, Trump supposedly phoned Putin before the meeting. Then apparently they spoke after the meeting in another phone call.
First of all, I agree completely with you. And we're just doing an analysis here, guys. This is a year-end show for me and Johnny together. And just, we're in no hurry. Everything's beautiful. Listen, the same principle we saw in October, right before Ukraine, it was looking like had a high potential to get tomahawks. Putin called the day before. You see, this is their modus operandi. Or Trump called Putin, regardless, which I can't remember which one. I know for sure yesterday Trump called Putin. But
the Russians claim that Trump called Putin.
Correct. So you see the same action. And what that tells us is, A, it confirms that Donald Trump has a great admiration for Vladimir Putin. We already know that Donald Trump has an admiration for dictators. We have learned that from hot mic moments. We can go back to the military parade where he was caught on a hot mic telling somebody at the stand, the viewing stand, that he would love for the people around him to behave like the people around Kim Jong-un behave.
That's Steve Doocy, I think, or Peter Doocy, the older one.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we know that behavior's there. We know the red carpet was rolled out in Alaska. You know, yesterday was an important meeting, and I made sure that I covered that when Zelensky came off the plane, there was no red carpet. There was not even an American delegation at all of any level. There, he met the ambassador of Ukraine and her staff, and you could see two guys in their safety vests that were just working the aircraft there. I assume he landed at Fort Lauderdale. I don't know. But regardless, it was just complete disrespect. And it's interesting to me that, you know, just reviewing yesterday before we go on, you know, at the end of that, I'm an American, so I understand American culture, and you're a Brit. You understand British culture, and we learn from each other. So you got Trump, this big giant man. He's looking down on Vladimir Putin, who's smaller in stature, but the heart of a lion and much larger than life. And he talks about, well, you know, you were here and you got to enjoy our lunch and how great Mar-a-Lago is and all of this. It's like, I did you a favor by letting you have lunch with me. And I did you all a favor by letting you be in my presence. I hope you had a good time, and, you know, we can do this again in the future sometime. But those things would never have been said to Vladimir Putin. Never. So there is a fundamental problem here in this relationship. And we're going to see it exposed more and more. And as Epstein file pressure ranks up, you're going to see more behavior go completely sideways, and it will show itself in Ukraine. It will show itself in the Middle East. Netanyahu is there in Florida now. It will show itself in Venezuela. It will show itself in Greenland, the European Union, and the list goes on. So just buckle your seatbelts, guys, for 2026. That's exactly what Merloni said days ago.
Yeah, and I haven't looked into this, but there was a rumor earlier that the US has struck a facility in Venezuela. I'm not sure if that's absolutely true, but
I'll check it while we're talking. But I can tell you, if they haven't, they're going to. It's
Yeah.
going to happen.
This is for those who haven't seen this. And by the way, it's not just on a hot mic incident. This also, he then repeated it in an interview, so that he's actually said exactly the same things, not on a hot mic. But this is what he said initially. This is what Greg is referring to. And I think if you haven't seen it, it's well worth looking at. So we'll have a look at this. This is it Steve Doocy or Peter Doocy? I always get them muddled up. Steve Doocy. So this is Steve Doocy in a hot mic with Donald Trump. Hopefully you can hear this.
Are we close to seeing Mr. Kim here at the White House?
Could happen. I mean,
They talked about that yesterday
I
with
would
Mike
have,
Pompeo?
yeah, I think it's something that could happen. Yeah. Hey, he's the head of a country, and I mean, he is the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different.
Right.
He speaks, and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the
Right.
same.
Well,
He's a strong leader. He's a strong leader of that country. You know, Kim Jong-un speaks and his people stand up to attention. I want my people to do the same. He's talking about my people, the American people. I want them to stand up to attention in the way that North Koreans stand up to attention when Kim Jong-un says something. That tells you, again, all you need to know about Donald Trump.
Listen, it's just the principle. So we have to understand, and I know we do, we have educated audiences, and we're thankful so much to all of you in the different communities and for your trust in us to navigate life with you. It's fundamental, man. It's a fundamental situation. This is what I was referring to even yesterday. He absolutely was speaking down to Zelensky, but on equal with Putin. He was Putin's advocate yesterday. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, and it absolutely horrific. And then he had a subsequent phone call with Putin, I believe, after the event yesterday, possibly one today as well, or maybe that I'm confusing both of them here. Let's just look quickly at what has developed today. So the White House press secretary Caroline Levitt confirms the president has concluded a positive call with Putin concerning Ukraine today. Let me guess. They aligned thoughts on how to pressure Zelensky in giving up Donbass without giving real security guarantees and meanwhile lift more sanctions. That's Noel reports, tongue in cheek. But then we hear this, and this is really, I think, absolutely egregious, Greg. It gets even better, says No Reports. Putin's advisor, Ushakov, claims Trump was, quote, shocked and outraged by Ukraine's alleged drone attack on Putin's residence. Ukraine has denied the accusation, calling it a Russian fabrication to justify further escalation. Just a little bit more detail here. So Putin's aide, Ushakov, says Anton Gerashenko spoke about the phone call between Trump and Putin. According to him, Putin told President Trump about an alleged Ukrainian attack on Putin's residence in Novgorod region. Ushakov said that the President Trump was, quote, shocked and, quote, appalled, could not even imagine such insane actions. Allegedly, Trump said that, quote, thank God USA didn't give Tomahawks to Ukraine. Putin told Trump that Russia's position on peace would be reviewed now. President Zelensky denies an attack on Putin's residence. It's Russia's way to justify attacks on Ukraine, play for time, and blame Ukraine in the eyes of the USA. So the idea here is that Trump now thinks that Ukraine had done insane things. And before we get on to some sort of denials,
let's pause there. Let's pause there because neither one of us are in a hurry today. I'm happy, man. I got a blizzard outside. So listen. As you're talking, what I'm doing now, because all morning I've been working with Gertis on getting our fundraiser video done and out, and it has dropped. And you guys at the end of this live stream, make sure to go check that out and let's finish that Project Constantine, and whatever fundraisers Johnny's doing, let's support that as well. So thank you in advance. So I'm catching up now on reading Russian news. So I'm going to do my best to so you're looking stuff up in English and Twitter and all your sources. So what I'm going to do to balance you is I'm going to read the Russian news over here. So I can tell you that as of 4:51 a.m. Eastern time, Dmitry Peskov put out a statement where he says Russia is waiting for the results of the negotiation from Florida after a new conversation between Putin and Trump. So Russia confirming that, yes, Putin and Trump had a conversation. Peskov saying, as of this time, I do not have details on that talk. However, I can confirm for you, and this is Dmitry Peskov, there is no plans to have a conversation between Putin and Zelensky, number one. Number two, we still stand by the fact that Kyiv is required to withdraw the armed forces of Ukraine beyond the administrative borders of Donbass to stop the hostilities. And the Kremlin agrees with Trump's assessment from yesterday that Ukraine and peace has become much closer. So
so this is
go.
what I reported this morning. So that then
I'm just going to catch up with you because I'm reading straight Russian here.
So it leads me to believe there's a phone call between Putin and Trump before the talks, then a phone call between Putin and Trump after the talks, and then today another phone call between Putin and Trump. That's
100%. There's been a phone call per the Kremlin confirming a phone call today.
Yeah. But this phone call is a more recent one. So the one that you just talked about, I'm catching up with you, was the one that Peskov talked about with regards to what they thought about after the what they thought about concerning the negotiations. Then there appears to be another one, I assume, concerning strikes from last night, which is the idea that Trump was then disgusted that Ukraine has deemed it reasonable to strike at Putin's residence.
I'm going to catch up with you on that. Let me just keep confirming your story, and you're here. I'm going to catch up with you. So I can also tell you that before any of that information, I can confirm from the Russian side, Putin met today with the governor of Moscow, and they had talks about Moscow region. And then he went straight to a meeting with Gerasimov and the supreme commanders. And he was once again briefed on the front. Gerasimov stating Russia liberated more than 700 square kilometers in December. Russians advancing deep into the enemy's defenses. The liberation of Bogoslavka has been completed, and Russian troops are actively advancing to the city of Krasny Liman, and the Russian army is less than 20 kilometers away from Sumy. So this is the information being pumped into Putin's head prior.
And Zaporizhia. So I don't know if you've got it there, but also it was claimed in that same assessment that the Russians are 15 kilometers away from Zaporizhia city as well.
Well, let me just say this. I don't know about that and can't confirm it, but let me tell you guys my history. So Zhenya and I spent a lot of time down south of Zaporizhia on that frontline area. We have personal friends that were fighting there. One of my buddies that grew up, I watched him grow up as a child. He's now, a wounded veteran with shrapnel to the eye, and a very, very sad story. But it doesn't take long. So territory that Russia now holds directly south of Zaporizhia, we've been in those towns, and we could drive from the center of Zaporizhia to those towns at that time and be there in 35 minutes. So now Russia has advanced beyond that. So whether it's 15 kilometers, 25 kilometers, I can tell you it's about 30 minutes away max moving there by vehicle. So of course, everything within drone range. And it's probably closer.
So then we have this claim, which is insanely controversial, that Ukraine has struck or attempted to strike Putin's residence in Novgorod.
Yes, I'm getting there now. 91, they used 91 strike UAVs, and this is reported by Sergei Lavrov 3 hours ago.
Yeah, and so, just on that point, so Putin's aide Ushakov stated that during a conversation with Trump, Putin complained about an alleged Ukrainian attack on his residence. According to Putin's aide Yuri Ushakov, Trump was shocked by what he heard, as I've already said, and Russia may now consider agreements reached earlier. So during the past night, from 11 o'clock Moscow time on December the 28th, to 7 a.m. Moscow time on December the 29th, the on-duty air defense systems intercepted and destroyed 89 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles of the aircraft type, and 18 of which were over the territory of Novgorod. Right. So the official Russian line this morning was that there were 18 drones that were shot down over Novgorod in total, 18 Ukrainian drones. So as Maria Drutska says, so Putin says Ukraine attacked my Novgorod house with 91 drones. Russian Ministry of Defense said 18 drones were shot down over all of Novgorod Oblast last night. And the internet shows that there are 0 pictures or videos evidencing this at all. Putin, 91 drones, trust me, bro, totally happened. No pictures because OPSEC. So it seems that there's a contradiction coming from the Russians themselves. We got 18 drones max in Novgorod. We shot them all down. Oh, and now Putin's saying 91 drones attacked my house.
All right, listen. I'm coming from Russian sources, okay? Yeah. And guys, I like, you guys know me, you're here. So we look at what they're saying, put it all together. So, of course, Russia's lying. But Lavrov has just said in a press statement 2.5 hours ago, Russia has identified targets already for retaliatory strikes and the timing of their delivery after the Ukrainian attack on Putin's residence. He then, and I'm quoting, said, considering this act, this is the final degeneration of the Kyiv regime, which now has resorted to a policy of state terror. And due to that, Russia's negotiating position with Ukraine will now be reviewed. Quote, unquote. I actually had the video. Yeah. So he did say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in Russian. I can play it in Russian or I could voice it over for you, but I won't look. That's what he said.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think, good enough. It's interesting that Russian public groups are announcing strikes on Ukrainian government institutions. Here's a quote from one of them. So objectively, we've been given a free hand. Zelya's residence is a weak candidate for a response, but I think all government agencies related to legislation, the military and industry, except perhaps the Ministry of Health, whose facilities and hospitals have been used as Ukrainian Armed Forces headquarters since day one, are quite suitable. Those who didn't hide are not to blame. The funds have been saved for a year should be enough. So I don't know how that translates. But
okay,
the point is that now they're advocating retaliation, as you were talking about, on anything.
Okay, let me go a little step further, and I'm going to interject something here that I think may be in the cards, okay? And here it is. Lavrov then stated, we want to confirm that Kyiv has attempted to attack Putin's residence in the Novgorod with drones last night. No number listed there, but all the drones were destroyed. Kyiv launched the attack at the time of intensive negotiations between Russia and the U.S. on conflict resolution. Unfortunately, such reckless actions by Kyiv will not go unanswered. The targets for the retaliatory strikes are ready. And despite Kyiv's attacks, listen to this closely, Russia does not intend to withdraw from the negotiation process with Ukraine. That was at 10:22 a.m. Eastern. At 10:57 a.m. Eastern, there was a phone call between Putin and Trump that ended. So that is 2.5 hours ago, roughly. So what's going to happen now, and I'm prognosticating a little bit, but what's going to happen is Russia will now use this as ammunition against Ukraine. It will be pushed through Witkoff. It will be pushed directly to Donald Trump from Vladimir Putin now, direct. They're attacking my home. I've told you they're terrorists, and we still want to negotiate. We still want peace, but we have to respond to this, and you need to understand with whom you were having lunch yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. That is the narrative they will push, because Ushakov reporting, I'm catching up with you now, that Trump was shocked and outraged by the attempt of the Ukrainian armed forces to attack Putin's residence. And Trump then informed Putin about some results of Zelensky's team. And then Putin and Trump said, we still want peace.
Yeah. So, okay, a couple of things to say here. It almost doesn't matter whether they tried to do this or not. And I could bring up justification for them trying to strike at Putin's residence, because there's a high likelihood he wouldn't have been there anyway. And even if he was, like, here's a simple fact of the matter is that Zelensky, the Russians have attempted to assassinate Zelensky something like 20 times since the beginning of the war.
Okay, let me give a fact here. You could very well be right, but I know of at least 6 times 100% factual.
Yeah.
And yes, there's more. So
Yeah.
it could be as high as 20, but
Yeah.
6, 100%.
Yeah, I was just, as you were speaking earlier, I was just doing a bit of research on this, and there were 3 before March 2022. And then the latest is recent totals. Some security analysts have said 19 or 20 separate plots or attacks have been foiled. So, like, Trump has said nothing about that. Trump has said nothing about the appalling strikes on all sorts across Ukraine. Like, they literally have tried to take Zelensky prisoner or kill him in their initial attack or have him run away to a separate country. They've tried, they've been blowing all sorts of people up, children, old people, young, middle-aged, men, women, disabled, whatever. Every human being has been a target in Ukraine. And that Trump would find it appalling that the Ukrainians have sent some drones against Novgorod is insane. Like, even if it is true. So I'm not even claiming that there is truth behind this, but even if it is true, I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever, given what Russia has
here we go.
tried. Oh, here it comes.
Here we go.
I need to.
I'm reading from TASS now. This report comes out 1 hour and 10 minutes ago. This is from Mironov. He says, it is not possible that the Kyiv regime could make a decision to attack Putin's state residence on its own. It had to be given a green light by its European masters. Then we have a press conference now from Maria Zakharova, and she is the press minister for Sergei Lavrov. She says, quote, Russia's determination and confidence in its actions are unshakable. Commenting after the attack on the president's home, she notes that in Russia, every day, women, children, and socially vulnerable people are dying from the attacks of Kyiv. And the West is now giving Kyiv a free pass for terrorist attacks, and they will continue. It's not just threatening our country, but this now will turn to a threat to the countries that created this Kyiv regime.
Yeah, so the Kyiv regime attacked Putin's state residence on the orders of the European masters, is the claim there. So this is now suddenly big, really big. And essentially this, I mean...
I'm moving to Ukrainian sources now.
Credits where credit's due, though, Greg. This is quite a clever move by the Russians, right? Because actually, it puts Trump in a position where he has to come down against Ukraine or come down with Ukraine and Europe against Russia. This is forcing Trump's hand. And then you have a fracture in the American government where Congress might go, well, actually, we don't agree with Trump in general. And yeah, this is really, really significant potentially. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Okay. Sternyenko reporting, he says, and he's quoting Lavrov. I'm getting more information now from Ukraine. He says on the night, and this is a quote from Lavrov, on the night of December 29th, Ukraine attempted to attack Putin's residence. Russia has identified the targets and the timing for the counterstrike, and this definitely confirms that we're making progress on the path to peace. Just yesterday, we were 95% or 90% there. It's confirming what you're saying. It's going to go right back on Donald Trump. I'm going to be very interested to see the statement start to roll out now from the White House.
Yeah. And it's quite, I mean, this is going back to yesterday, not so much to do with what you're saying, but Tom Nichols, who writes for The Atlantic, well worth listening to, he said that President Donald Trump's claims that Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed have received sharp negative reaction. Here, Atlantic writer Tom Nichols said those claims are, quote, one of the stupidest things he's ever said and a true Hall of Fame entry. I don't disagree. I mean, honestly, I'm still amazed that he's taken seriously, Donald Trump, by people around. Like, that people actually think that Putin would want Ukraine to succeed. Just
we're catching up here. So we do need to confirm that Zelensky has denied. We haven't said this publicly, but all Ukraine sources saying that, of course, President Zelensky has denied we did not attack President Putin's home there in Novgorod. But now there's more to Ushakov's statement here, and I'm quoting. Ushakov said Trump now promises to change his approach to working with Zelensky. And Sternyenko is reporting that Ushakov said that Trump said, sorry, thank God I didn't give them tomahawks.
Yeah. So that's what I said earlier. Yeah.
So I know you did.
Yeah.
I'm catching up with you to confirm it.
Yeah. Yeah, and which is just the idea that Trump would listen to what the Russians say on a phone call and not have any kind of skeptical lens or filter to go, hang on, I'm not going to cast my opinion yet. Let's just confirm the details with my own intelligence services. He just goes, oh my goodness, who would have believed it? That's insane. I can't believe we were thinking about giving them tomahawks. You know, it's straight away, like it's the desire to want to agree with whoever he's speaking to from Russia on the phone. I mean, we can do some like folk psychology here and sit back in our armchairs and go, well, what's going through Trump's head as he says these things? And it's that willingness to want to agree with Russia and disagree with Ukraine that I think comes out. If those phone calls, if Ushakov's idea of those phone calls is correct, then it just shows that naturally Trump wants to agree with the Russians. And I think that's hugely problematic.
Zelensky just put out a little while ago, and I'm sure you've seen it, but I'm catching up with you here. 85% of Ukrainians are for peace.
Yeah.
And 85% of Ukrainians are against withdrawal of their forces.
Yeah.
Capitulation. He needed to do that.
Yeah, this is on Fox News where Zelensky said 87% of Ukrainians want peace and 85% of Ukrainians don't want to withdraw forcefully from Donbass or something like that.
Of course.
Which is like absolutely right.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that have never been to Ukraine, which is probably a majority, just take it from Johnny. I've had him in that Donbass region, Donetsk region, all through that area.
We've been to Pokrovsk.
You've been to Pokrovsk. You've been all around through that Kramatorsk-Slavyansk loop, everywhere. Guys, you're talking about a massive area. This, when you look at a map, it doesn't do it justice. When you're talking about Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, Druzhkivka, Konstantinivka, you're talking about a massive, almost like a metropolitan area. These cities run into each other and they're up on a high ground and there's so much infrastructure and defense there. Ukraine cannot give up that area, cannot give up that land. And it's, we know that, you know that, but I just want you to, I'm trying to paint the picture in your minds for what it really looks like. It's not just some flat plain that looks like Kansas. Talking about up and down terrain and beautiful rivers and forests and big cities and massive, massive power plants and coal mines and different types of mines and infrastructure. It's a gold mine. It's a gold mine.
Seeing that Trump possibly, I think, in a press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, I think he must have been asked about the attempted strikes on Putin's residence, and he said, "I just heard about it actually, but I don't know about it. That would be too bad." Which is, you know, his latest on that, but I guess we'll have to wait.
Yeah. Here it is. I've got the quote. I just heard about this and I don't have any details, but this would be very negative for future events.
Yeah. Which it is a slightly better interpretation of that, which is at least some kind of skepticism. I don't know about it fully yet, but if it was true, then it wouldn't look good. But I would just not add that last bit. If I was a sensible ruler, I'd just be like, I need to look into details, and I get back to you when I know what has taken place. Don't just believe everything you hear. You know.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
You
ready? You're Donald Trump. Sorry. You're put on a polygraph machine. And you are asked one question. Who do you trust more, Vladimir Putin or Volodymyr Zelensky?
Oh, Putin every day of the week.
Okay, so
every day of the week. That's my point about
there's
about
your
the
answer.
psychology of
There's
that
your
kind of
answer.
phone call. If
There's
he's
your
like,
answer.
"Oh, that's terrible," then he's straight away already believing. There's a credulity he has for Putin, whereby he kind of wants to believe Putin but doesn't want to believe Zelensky. And so, yeah, this is 100%. It just, yeah.
Now, one of the reasons that they're talking about this, back to Putin's residence, Veliki Novgorod, it's a small place, guys, where Putin's home is, or one of his homes is there. So they can use that to say, oh, there were no other critical targets there. This is what they'll do. I'm just telling you in advance, when more details come out, they're going to be saying, oh, there was no critical targets there. There's no military installations there. It had to be targeting Putin's residence. Okay. Well, I guess you can't say that every time a cruise missile or a Shahed drone flies over Zelensky's house, which happens nonstop, that's not, oh, well, it flew over Zelensky's house. They're targeting Zelensky's house. It happens every day almost.
And the other thing as well, that I'm pretty sure that Ukraine has gone for his Sochi palace down on the Black Sea coast, right? Before, and no one's batted an eyelid. Like, everyone's like, yeah, of course they go for that. I mean, why not? Blow it up. Big ostentatious palace.
Listen, by the way, just so you know, Putin wants to make sure that Ukraine has a good future and has some good electricity, and he'll help them with them. He's concerned about the future welfare and wealth of Ukraine, and he's not sending missiles anymore against Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. He's letting that go now. This is what was stated yesterday.
Yeah.
It
just, I mean, yeah, just all of it. Anything to do with Donald Trump frustrates the bejesus out of me. And,
Zelensky, 10:36 a.m. quote. So when I say 10:36 a.m., guys, it's Eastern Standard Time. 3 hours and 4 minutes ago, Zelensky, quote, Russia is preparing a strike on Ukrainian government buildings in Kyiv.
Yeah.
Quote, I remind you, it was the 22nd of December. Zelensky came out and said, Russia is preparing massive strikes against us on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And of course, he hit the bullseye on that. So you can pretty much put this in the bank.
Yeah. And just to give you a sense of what Andrei Sybiha said, the foreign minister for Ukraine, his response was Russian manipulations regarding the alleged attempt to attack Putin's residence are fabricated for only one reason: to create a pretext and false justification for Russia's further attacks against Ukraine, as well as to undermine and impede the peace process. Usual Russian tactic: accuse the other side of what you are doing or planning yourself. First, Russia has already struck the Ukrainian government building this year. Second, Ukraine only strikes legitimate military targets in the Russian territory in response to Russian strikes at Ukraine. Third, Russia is the aggressor, and Ukraine is a country that has been attacked and defends itself according to Article 51 of the UN Charter. There can be no false equivalence between the aggressor and the country defending itself. Well said, Andre. That's, of course, completely rational and sensible. I'm not sure, unfortunately, the audience of Donald Trump will be taking that on in the most...
Yana from Project Constantine making a great comment here that's 100% on. Russia's policy is sort of like, always accuse the other side of what you are guilty of.
Yeah.
Exactly right,
Yana. Always.
I will tell you, Zakharova just coming out with a statement saying the response to the attack of Kyiv will not be diplomatic. Let them not even hope for it. Russian Foreign Minister spokesperson Zakharova.
So this, okay, interesting. Let's
3 minutes ago.
Let's war game this. So tonight they do some massive strikes, and
I don't think it happens tonight, but it could.
Yeah, there was already a claim that because there was only 25 drones sent last night, which is a tiny number of drones for Russia to send in the night period. There's a theory that they are stockpiling for New Year's Eve, right? And that's going to be their kind of New Year's Eve symbolic fireworks display. And you can imagine that, that's still going to take place. So New Year's Eve, maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow night, but the night after, isn't it?
Well, logistically speaking, militarily speaking,
they need to stockpile. They've sent them all the other night.
If they actually are going to target some governmental buildings in Kyiv, there's two schools of thought. They'll try to do it quickly so that they're catching Ukraine with less air defense or whatever. But the reality also is they do have to program those attacks and get their flight patterns and their flight routes. That's why you see a lot of, we heard last week about the balloon 6,000 meters in the air over Kyiv, and they're trying to figure out what it is. Or these Shaheeds fly in and they're mapping, and they're not armed. They're just mapping the best routes for attacks. So, if they're really going to send a missile on Ukrainian governmental buildings, and for those of you that do not know where those are located, of course, they're all over the city of Kyiv, but the general downtown area, and this is not operational security, you can go to Google Maps and look at it, where Maidan is, in that area, a kilometer.
Where we've stayed in the Ukrainska hotel.
Where you were in that hotel, you were just half a kilometer from Zelensky's office. And that's not operational security, guys. It's a public knowledge. It's public knowledge.
Yeah. And so if we're all getting this, if Russia decides to do that and they have some success or complete success, if it's, horrific in what they do, and it's a very symbolic strike against the heart of governance and these old buildings as well, there's some kind of cultural impact too, then it arguably will unite Europe to do something even stronger in reply. So I've always said this, Greg, Putin has to play a very careful game. So if you're imagining you're Putin, right, and you are a megalomaniacal dictator that's hell-bent on whatever, you also don't want Europe and the US to band together and hit you hard. So whenever you're hitting Ukraine, you're trying to hit them hard, but not too hard. If you are too crazy and do stuff that is too egregious, then actually it makes the allies of Ukraine go, no, that's a red line, that's horrible, so we're now going to give more stuff to Ukraine. So every time Russia's overstepped the mark, it's actually been counterproductive. So here they need to be kind of careful that if they go too far, you might end up having, I don't know, European planes in Western Ukraine, or some kind of step change from European allies. So I think Putin has to be clever here, that he doesn't overplay his hand.
Okay, you said that Putin has to be clever and doesn't overplay his hand. Okay, I agree, but maybe think of it from a different angle. Let's look at a statement that was made yesterday, and that statement was, Putin wants peace. This is Donald Trump, and I'm not quoting, but I'm close. And Putin said he wants to be a part of rebuilding Ukraine and reconstruction. So, we've already got that agreed. He wants to do that. And I had a buddy of mine send me a message from Ukraine, and he said, Greg, here's the issue with that. Putin does want to rebuild Ukraine, but it's not Ukraine he wants to rebuild. He wants to rebuild what will be new Russia. But he will tell Trump, I'm rebuilding Ukraine. For example, let's talk the city of Mariupol. I'm going to rebuild Mariupol. Yeah, we're going to rebuild Ukraine, but in fact, he wants to rebuild Russia. So he'll use nuances like that. So you have to, it's always been told many times by people who are down the MAGA toilet that Donald Trump plays 4D, 5D, 10D chess. And of course, we know he does not. But I will tell you that Vladimir Putin does think in layers, and President Zelensky definitely thinks in layers and cause effect and thinks ahead, moves. Unfortunately, the leadership in the United States doesn't. And we will see the result of that when we hear, you got to remember, Trump's meeting with Bibi right now. They're finishing up and, their press conference. There will be statements coming on Truth Social about 3 a.m. about this. So you'll see there will be very little thought process if we go to traditional patterns. And it'll be very interesting to see what comes out from Trump administration in regard to this. Very, very. It's going to be very telling. And that's why, what you're saying, it's a calculated move for Putin. But they're good at calculating against the White House.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, I don't know, let's look at who they had lined up against the Ukrainians yesterday. So you have Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, who don't care for Ukraine at all. They just care for business and lining their own pockets. So you got those two. You got Marco Rubio, who's otherwise sensible, but appears to be dead inside these days as he is acquiescing to whatever Trump really wants. You got Pete Hegseth, that before he was appointed, when he was an anchor for Fox News, was actually quite anti-Russia and quite pro-Ukraine, and was saying Biden should be doing more. But then as soon as he was made Secretary of Defense on account of his anti-woke Christian nationalism, and I mean that in all sincerity, that's why Trump saw him on TV as like, I like the cut of his jib, so I want him as my defense secretary. But actually, he would have been more in agreement with going hard on Russia, but now he just says whatever Trump wants him to say.
He is completely unqualified for that position.
100%. And then you got Dan Kane here, who's actually fairly sensible. So here you got the adult in the room here, and Marco Rubio used to be the adult in the room. And then you've got Stephen Miller, who is one of the most evil people. And is this Gardner? Is that who was just saying that if the Europeans want an army, then it's going to be against America's interests. Like, we don't want Europe to have sovereign decisions over their own like security. We want the US to decide this, even though we want Europe to stand up on its own 2 feet. Anyway, so essentially, I mean, Stephen Miller is just pure evil. And then you've got Donald Trump, and you think, well, these people are advocating for whom exactly? But half of them are advocating for Russia, and the other half or lining their own pockets. And you've got two somewhat sensible people trying to hold the line. It's just, you know, you look at that lineup, and,
but
it's not good.
You have the hidden face there of the chief of staff, who just came out in weeks ago calling, he leads the White House like an alcoholic. I mean, you know, and no matter whether you can say, well, she was taken out of context or whatever. She said it. So there are recordings of it. She said it. So and she went on about all of those guys there. So you have a lot of dysfunction on that side of the table, and you have really, and put that picture back up there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Nobody in that line, other than maybe Marco Rubio and that general, are qualified to be sitting at that table across from President Zelensky trying to end a war, only due to their positions. But by having any ability to really do something, it's only those two. The rest of them, worthless.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah.
And so, I don't mean that as a value of their life. I'm talking about in this situation, worthless.
Okay.
Listen, Trump just said, I just listened to the video over here while we're working. Maybe there was no attack, as you say. Putin told me that there was one. So we know factually that Putin has told Trump that there was an attack on his residence.
Apparently, he says here, I'm just reading the subtitles. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. I was very angry about it.
Yeah, he got the information from Putin.
And that's what makes him. And okay, just
here's another quote. Yeah,
tell me why you're angry about it. That's what I'd like to know. You can be angry about it. Now, put into words, Trump, why you are angry.
You've got to get the quote before that. Okay.
I don't like it. It's not good.
No. Here's the quote. It's just coming out now. It's one thing to insult someone, but it's another to attack their home. You can't do that. Period. I was very angry when Putin told me about this.
Right. Yeah. There's a ... before the I was angry about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's his viewpoint. You can't do this. So at this point, it looks like he's taking his information from what Putin told him. Why? Because he's angry about it. You can't do that. And it's one thing to insult. It's another thing to attack their home. So it's easy.
I honestly, I dream of having like an hour televised sit down with Trump and like, right, you're not allowed to stand up and walk away because you don't like this conversation. But Trump, Mr. President, I am going to ask you some pretty difficult questions. And then I'm going to, when you answer me, I'm going to unpick what you say and get you to justify every single position you have. So if you're angry about that, tell me why you're angry. Tell me why it is bad for Ukraine to strike at his house.
Hey, where are you from? Where are you from?
The UK, Mr. President.
Fake news.
Right, fake news. That's it. But I knew you were going to say that.
You ever done anything with the BBC? I'm suing the BBC. I'm going to get tens of millions of dollars from the BBC. You got that same UK blood in you?
I'm surprised you hasn't tried to sue me.
You nothing but fake news.
Yeah. That's
the answer you get.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Greg,
I'm enjoying this.
Let's
not what's happening, but I'm enjoying the conversation with you.
Let's take a bit of a left turn here and talk about where you think the war is at the moment as we come towards the end of 2025. What has Ukraine been able to achieve this year? What has Ukraine really struggled with? What are their challenges? I always talk about these two pressure cookers, that it's a game of kind of attritional chicken and attritional pressure cookers. And in the Russian pressure cooker, I put their economy as one of their biggest pressures. I also put personnel and material attrition as being an issue, but it's not so demanding for them. And for Ukraine, I put their energy infrastructure. I won't put finances in there because they're at the moment still being sustained by outside, but and that 90 billion has come from Europe. So okay. I would put the energy infrastructure and manpower issues. So those are the two pressures sets of pressures going on each side. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I have a lot to add to that. Can you go to single screen for yourself and give me 30 seconds? I want to get a map. No, go to you full screen. I'll be right back.
I tried to.
I'll be right back.
Yes. So
listen, I'm saying I need to get a map, but the reality is
you need to go to the little boys' room.
I have to tinkle.
Yeah.
1 second.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm drinking a beer. I'm thankful that we're chatting together because I'm in a
blizzard and I'm drinking coffee and I'm not going to put a depends on for this. So go full screen and I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. Happy map finding. There you go. So as my audience has heard me say 101 million times, you got these two pressure cookers. Which pressure cooker's lid is going to blow off first? Now, I know pressure cookers are designed to take quite a lot of pressure, but sometimes pressure just gets too much. Now, it appears clear to me and many other analysts. I was listening to Peter, was it Kurzin? Oh no, what's his name? And Konstantin talking about the economy again today. So many analysts just saying, look, the Russian economy is in a lot of trouble. It is very fragile. There are so many indicators to suggest it is close to maybe not collapsing, but there being some serious issues. Some people saying there's one major incident. They are one major economic incident away from a bit of a disaster. But for Ukraine, it's going to be a lot about what's going on the front lines, but also energy infrastructure. Their energy sector, the infrastructure they have at the moment, the networks are getting absolutely hammered on a nightly basis. And without energy, of course, you can't do anything. You can't have commerce. You can't have an industry. You can't build weapons. You're going to struggle to feed yourselves, to get logistics and all sorts. So energy is one of the cornerstones of a functioning society. And if Russia is properly degrading Ukraine's energy infrastructure, then that is just a fundamental challenge to Ukraine's ability to not just, be at war with Russia and hold their own, but to function as a society, as an economy, where you're getting important tax revenue in, but also you've got warm citizens in a very, very cold winter. So the energy infrastructure is absolutely pivotal for Ukraine, and Russia know that, and they are turning the screw on Ukraine's energy infrastructure at the moment, and that is deeply, deeply concerning. And of course, the forever issue with Ukraine's ability to generate manpower for the front lines. They're trying to get around that with reliance on UGVs, unmanned ground vehicles, these drones that are on wheels and tracks, but also with their aerial drones, such as the FPV drones, doing things like going round corners, going into buildings, blowing up people that otherwise would have been done by soldiers. So they're trying to get around the manpower issue with relying on technology. Russia are also going for drones, but they're really obviously relying still very heavily on manpower. But the economy is close for Russia and the energy sector on which the economy is based is very close to, blowing that lid for Ukraine. So that's my kind of analysis, and what we're seeing every night are attempts by one side or the other to strike at things that affect those different domains. So what Ukraine is trying to do is strike at Russia's industrial military complex and also its ability to make money. So hydrocarbon, oil refineries and oil depots and transportation and tankers, and their ability to make money that will just expedite an economic crash. And also their ability to wage war by hitting depots and equipment and troop accumulations and, of course, military industrial complex. So, and then likewise, Russia is hitting, particularly energy infrastructure, but also, no doubt, military industrial complex that we hear less about, but will be happening on a nightly basis. So there we go. So
thank you for that. I'm good to go now. And I was listening. So. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think. Ukraine has done an incredible job this year defending, and I'm going to look at it from a couple of maybe different angles. The first angle is I have to give a massive amount of admiration to President Vladimir Zelensky, because President Zelensky has been a true wartime president, a true leader, a true commander-in-chief. When I think about the many times that he visited his soldiers on the front, just recently going to Kupiansk, what he has demonstrated by not words only, but by actions.
Good point.
When I think about over 2025, we can go back to the meeting in the Oval Office in February, where he was accused of having no cards, and he was verbally assaulted by the Vice President of the United States, and he was able, to the best of his ability, to maintain his composure while speaking in his third language. Russian was his native, Ukrainian was his second, English he has learned. He was able to defend his position and do it admirably under that immense pressure. From there, we saw through the year the relationship between Zelensky and Putin like a roller coaster. We saw it at times where Donald Trump called Zelensky a crook, where he would not even refer to him as president. And that went up and down. We come to August, and there is the Anchorage summit that happened, where, of course, Ukraine left on the outside looking in as the red carpet is rolled out for Vladimir Putin. And it's such a tragedy. Something happened in Anchorage that none of us really know the super details about. I personally believe that Donald Trump told Vladimir Putin that he would be able to force Ukraine to capitulate, give away some land, and make a peace. But that was unable to happen, because Ukraine is a nation that stands for its rights and stands for justice. You then have the opposite swing of emotions that happened, where Donald Trump, out of the blue, sends a tweet or a Truth Social or whatever that, I've got this all wrong. I think Ukraine can win the war, get all of their boundaries back, borders back, and even take some Russian territory.
That's around the UN General Security. Was at the UN General Security.
That's
meeting.
right.
Yeah.
So we've had this swing of emotions. So the first thing I have to do is I have to tell President Zelensky that in 2025, under immense pressure, under scandals that have been uncovered in Kyiv, listen, they're battling corruption that's been there for decades and decades, that was indoctrinated from the times of the Soviet Union. If you think that's a level of corruption, let me invite you to the Kremlin, where they've had decades and decades and decades, and they're not trying to rout it out, but they're trying to use it as the base for global destabilization. At least Ukraine is working on it, doing the very best they can while fighting a war and having to deal with the swinging back and forth from the leader of the free world, Donald J. Trump. So you get an A+ to Zelensky. The military defending unbelievably with the transition of warfare from a traditional warfare over this year in 2025. And yes, the drones have been rolling since the beginning, but this year we've seen an incredible leap ahead in the technology of drone warfare, whether in the air, in the water or on the ground. And Ukraine able to keep up, not only keep up, but in sometimes lead the way. And they're doing this while their supplies are sometimes in question. They're not being stood up and supported by a massive oil business that they're shipping around the world and nations are buying it. They're relying on the partnership and friendships of nations to stand for them because it's the morally right thing to do. They're not backed by China. And you can say what you want to, but China's sending money. They're not
100%.
backed by India, which just days ago says our levels of purchasing Russian oil are now back to pre-sanction levels. They're not backed by an evil regime in Kim Jong-un in North Korea, who is doing nothing but fund and ship and supply that war machine, not only with weapons, but also with people.
Can I just add this in, just because
You're in the
germane to
middle.
what
You're
saying.
in the middle of my presidential speech.
But
Yes, you
germane to what
can.
you're saying, Russia would back China in a potential war over Taiwan. According to Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Moscow again rejected any form of Taiwanese independence, calling the island an inseparable part of China. The statement comes as Beijing tests new hypersonic anti-ship weapons. So just what you're saying, like China helping Russia, but Russia also doubling down to support China in that domain.
So the military has done amazing. This is during the time that Ukrainians are under intense pressure. Every Ukrainian has lost somebody. Every Ukrainian has lost a family member, potentially. I want to make sure we're 100% accurate, or a friend for sure. Everybody at the minimum knows somebody that has lost somebody. Territory has been lost, but not massively. Infrastructure's been destroyed, leveled to the ground. My dear friends, wherever you're watching from today, JP, you're there in the UK. Can you name a town for me in the UK that has the population of 25, 30,000 people? Just a good example people wouldn't recognize. Some famous town.
I can't give you a famous town because obviously it's unlikely to be very famous at all.
All right, well, in any kind of town.
Quite small. I don't know. What would someone like Hedge End near Southampton maybe?
Okay, so just imagine, my dear friend, that town leveled to the ground and nothing but rubble. You know, I think here in the United States, and I think, you know, just of towns, I would think of something like a Lynchburg, Virginia, where I was born. A small town there in the hills of Virginia. I couldn't imagine that city leveled to the ground. Wherever you're at, in whatever country you're watching from, just put yourself in the place of Ukrainians. Think about a town in your nation and then imagine it leveled to the ground by Russian war machine. How would you feel? Exactly. And this is what Ukrainians are dealing with for now almost 4 years. So what is the grade for Ukraine at the end of this year? It is absolutely an A+. I want to share a screen with you, JP, and I'll do that right here. Let me see. I want that one. There you go.
I've got a baby banging on a window here, so
sounds like a
just in
personal
front
problem. Of me. All right. So, guys, I looked at this on the map the other day, but I just want you to see this. Here's Ukraine. Okay. And I'm going to draw it with Crimea and their real borders. There's Ukraine. All right, we got it. Now, let's go red. Belarus. Not only are there now Oreshniks there, they are also assisting in the transition of the Shaheeds to attack northwestern Ukraine. Then we can talk Russia. The map's not even big enough, guys, but we can just take it and just go. Just let this image bear. And I know you'll say, well, Greg, out there, way out there, it's nothing but rural. It doesn't matter. Just look. Just look. And then let's add Iran to it because of Shaheed technology and the economic and military partnerships. And then let's add China. You know, and I'm roughly doing that for you. Oh, we've got to add North Korea. And we can add India, sending lots of money to the Russian war machine. Guys, do you see what I'm looking at? I'm seeing Ukraine defending this territory, their home, unbelievably strong in this. I understand, and I'm actually looking for Johnny here in the back screen. I think I lost the host. There he is. Of course, we have Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Europe. We can go up to Sweden. I mean, we've got our block here, guys. We've got our block. Not all of it. We don't have Hungary. Slovakia is becoming questionable. All right. This is what, just look at, then, of course, U.S. across the ocean. So I look at that and I just say, my goodness, what an amazing job to defend. Really, it's like that, Phil Collins song, Against All Odds. Against all odds. When your supply has been flowing and then stopped. When you've been accused of being terrorists and then you've been accused of being heroes. When you've accused of being bandits and then accused of being brilliant people. Yesterday, it was Donald Trump looking over at the Ukrainian general who was with Zelensky, says, wow, y'all are some big dudes there. Man, you're ready for a Hollywood script. That's the mentality. And listen, that's so disrespectful to these Ukrainians who are fighting for their life, because for them, it's not a movie. It's reality. So this is just a little bit of a picture of.
And then you hear today that, and I reported this in my hits and losses, that the Ursa Major ship that went down off Spain, off Cartagena in Spain, was a Russian cargo ship that was actually carrying 2 nuclear reactors. Well, we hear that they are actually submarine nuclear reactors that Russia was helping, looking to help by sending 2 submarine nuclear reactors from St. Petersburg all the way to Vladivostok by sea, so that North Korea can get their hands on a couple of submarine nuclear reactors. Like, it's stuff like that we just almost dismiss that as like, well, yeah, Russia, of course, they're with North Korea. But the United States of America, qua Donald Trump and the administration, should be coming out and saying, what the hell is Russia doing trying to supply 2 nuclear submarine reactors to North Korea? Like, that should be a moment of huge diplomatic tension, and it should be a complete scandal in the geopolitical world, and yet not a thing has been said.
Mark Biscuit, and I know we will be getting to the comments and all of that, and we'll be going through them all, guys. We're in no hurry. Mark Biscuit just made an incredible statement. Putin is desperate. He is at his most dangerous. I fear this winter may bring the most devastation to Ukraine. Mark, and hello to you and Elena there in Canada. You're spot on accurate. And it wouldn't be surprising for me that after yesterday's meeting, and I'm speculating here, when Zelensky did not capitulate and come out of that meeting with some crazy agreement, let's go meet Putin, we're going to give up Donbass. That didn't happen. Nothing happened. It was a nothing burger in general. Putin realized the war's going to continue, and he can talk and bluff and do all he wants, but he's still got to fight against Ukraine. And it would not surprise me at all if this attack, so-called, on Putin's home is not just a false flag, where even if it was Ukrainian drones flying at some target there and getting close enough, they're going to use it for their own interest, Russia that is, to now strike differently. And I think we're going to see that. We're going to see something different over the next few days. And they're going to try to use this to their advantage. Yeah, there's the comment.
Absolutely. It's fascinating, but in a very kind of horrific way. But so just say,
so
Putin
now
is
let me
desperate, he is at
finish.
his most dangerous. I fear this winter may bring the most devastation to Ukraine. I completely agree.
100%. Now, you were asking me to give my end of the year summary. I have two last things. So I talked about President Zelensky. I've talked about the Ukrainian military. We've talked about the corruption they're fighting. There's two last points I want to talk about. The volunteers in Ukraine are amazing.
Yeah.
They're living lives like soldiers, but volunteering. Dangerous, delivering, raising funds, helping. So we have to give an A+ to the volunteers all over Ukraine. And it's, recognizing that there's no end in sight, we continue and we fight on. So we have to say, great year, volunteers helping, and will continue. So then I move
That's
to
very, very well said.
Thank you,
Foreign
sir.
and domestic.
Foreign and domestic. Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and Ukrainian, obviously.
Then I have to make a statement about the people of the world that support Ukraine. And it looks, YouTube is the major platform for that when it comes to video. And then there's a lot of people on Twitter, and you've got different organizations, and I won't even start listing. But the reality is, you people right now that are watching this on demand or live, or you're watching it on demand later, or you support channels like ours and so many others of Johnny and my friends and your friends as well. You feel like we all know each other. And in a sense, we do morally and inside our hearts. And I don't want to get too deep there because Johnny will have to take his hat off. But because let his angelic glow flow. But the reality is the world has come together. You've not grown weary. And I'm sorry, I'm going to quote one Bible verse here. Johnny, just let it slide. You can quote something from whatever. But listen, the book of Galatians says, do not grow weary in well-doing, because at the proper time you'll reap a harvest if you do not give up. And I think that quote there is powerful. Don't give up, folks. Don't capitulate. Our world is in a very new state. And all of us, from ages, if you're the youngest in here watching or the oldest, there's never been a time like this in our world. So thank you to all of the people watching. And then I will close out my end of the year summary by saying this. The last 3 days have been a game changer as we go into 2026. And we will look back on these 3 days and we will say something changed there. What am I referring to? Number one, Vladimir Putin got back in his uniform again, received the lies that they are taking everything and the kitchen sink. And then he and Gerasimov both making statements that we're happy. We want to continue the special military operation on to Zaporizhia. Okay? You have that first. Then you have the meeting on Sunday, which was a nothing burger in the big scheme of things. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We've discussed that. But today's event, and we do not know what the results of this will be yet, but even just the accusation from Putin directly in Trump's ear that they attacked my home. Tomorrow, the day after, moving into January, we're going to see major shifts from these 3 sequential days. I don't know how it's going to shift. I'm not Nostradamus, but I'm also doing this every day, just like all of you wonderful folks are. A blind man can see this. It's going to shift. It's going to be so interesting to see international responses come in, and most importantly, Donald Trump's.
I think one of the things that people supporting Ukraine who have been hopeful about maybe the end of this year or this kind of last 3-4 months and then going forward into next year, one of the things has been sort of the ability for Ukraine to build their own missiles and drones. And there's been a lot of funding involved there, and there's been a lot of success in terms of FP1s, FP2s, potentially FP5s, Luti drones, BARS drone missiles, Peklos, Palantir, Neptunes, etc., etc.
Exactly.
There is now quite a repertoire of potential, quite a repertoire of actual weapons. But added to that, there are some bits of better news on top of that the new year could bring about. So we're hearing about Czechia potentially providing narwhal cruise missiles that have a 680-kilometer range. I forget what the warhead is, probably 1 to 200 kilograms warhead. We've got the UK has just in record time, and I have to say I've been quite happy with the UK of late. I keep reporting really positive things, providing loads of stuff sort of under the radar, loads of air defense systems like Terrahawk, Graveheart, and Raven and stuff like that. But they've got this new break stop, I think it's called, a cruise missile that has been produced from scratch by MBDA, and is now being tested and is soon to be in Ukraine, hopefully. And it was built specifically for Ukraine, right? And there's no doubt other missiles that are going to be coming on board as well. We hear about the FP7, the FP9 ballistic missiles, and the UK is also involved in generating a low-cost hypersonic aeroballistic missile, I think, as well as a break stop. So there is a potential for Ukraine, if the war is continuing early into the year, as in sort of February, maybe March, that you start seeing Ukraine's ability to strike into Russia improved. And if they can keep the manufacturing facilities of the weapons they do have safe, and if they are getting things like SAMP-T air defenses and more Patriots and whatnot, then, you know, as hard as it is for them, what they need to do is be able to strike deep into Russia and take out Russia's ability to have an economy, whilst also having these near rear drones such as the FP2 drone, which flies 200 kilometers, 105 kilogram warhead, and then other similar ones to that that are doing all the damage in Crimea at the moment. So there is a hope that Ukraine, if that scale is achieved, we were hoping for that scale to be the back end of this year. It has half arrived, I think. You are seeing these weapons, but not quite at the numbers we'd like to see, or maybe you are, but the Russians are shooting them down.
Let me ask you a couple of hypothetical questions. If this narrative continues, and I'm referring to the attempted strike on Putin's home, and let's say that Russia does what it says it's going to do and attempts to strike at a governmental building in Kyiv, and they hit one, what happens?
Well, then it's all about Europe and the United States, but the United States will opt out of this. So
there you go. There you go. Thank you. That's exactly where I was going to go.
The US will opt out no matter what. I mean, there's just, we cannot rely on Trump being a reliable partner of Ukraine or Europe. Like, all his energy at the moment is being spent attacking Europe over the digital sales tax. We just heard, just for those interested in British politics, exactly what I predicted 9 years ago when I was debating Brexit. We now, I said, if we come out of the EU, we'll have to do individual trade deals with all the countries in the world that we used to have trade deals under Brexit, under EU, the trade bloc in EU. So we come out of the EU, which was eventually didn't happen until 2020, 2021. Now we're doing these trade deals with the US. The latest we hear is that the US is trying to force us to take chlorinated chicken, which is something that I've been warning for 9 years, that we will be forced to take American agri-produce that has much lower standards of health and safety regulation as a part, and digital sales tax will be reduced and digital regulation. So all of this stuff that I was worried about. So anyway, the point being is that the US is going to war, political war and economic war with its allies, and leaving China, Russia, and North Korea to kind of do what the hell they want to some degree. And so therefore it's going to be up to Europe to, say, Friedrich Merz to say, okay, we will provide tourists, but then how long does it take for tourists to be operational on a Ukrainian plane? It's not just like you can have tourists and then you can use it tomorrow night.
I need to give a couple more things about the 2025.
Europe versus US is my summary of 2025, by the way.
Yeah, and we're covering it all. I'm trying to say this the right way. Guys, never believe the Russian propaganda that Ukrainian soldiers are moving around in towns and killing civilians. That narrative out there so many times. And I just want to say it. I have met over my time in Ukraine, 28 years working there, but nonstop since the war began, in and out, thousands and thousands of Ukrainian soldiers. They're heroes. They are humans. They care about people. So I just want to once again just shout out the 2025, the soldier on the front line, the soldier in the trench, the soldier driving the car, trying to avoid the drone, because it's so important that we understand what they're dealing with, and it's very, very difficult. And then I was thinking, I want to give a 2025 shout out to our team members, Johnny, for you and for me, personally, all of our moderators. I want to say thank you to our moderators. You're helping us even when we're not live or we're videos. You're checking the chats. You're checking the comments. We're all working together. And then I also want to give a big shout out to our Discords. If you haven't joined our Discords, do it, because in there we have incredible conversations with smart people. Don't agree on everything, but we sure do enjoy chatting and learning from each other, and trying to build communities of hope. And
I was on my
future
Discord for the first time in bloody ages.
I'm on mine all the time.
Yeah,
trying to.
I just don't
do
have time.
So I know it's tough. But thankful to the moderators. We're just thankful to everybody and grateful.
Who's done my Discord?
Grateful for everybody.
Absolutely, 100%. So with regard to looking forward into next year, I mean, my hope is that it's all about Ukraine's, and sorry to sound like a stuck record to my viewers, I've heard this 100 million times, but Ukraine, and I've said this right at the beginning of the war, literally back in the beginning of 2022, Ukraine needs to fight this war from a distance. They don't have the personnel. Russia has the personnel. And Russia at the time had the equipment as well. I don't know that they do anymore, actually, to be honest. But Ukraine need to fight with drones, FPV drones, Baba Yaga drones, Mavics, doing recon and dropping IEDs and whatnot. They need to be using equivalents to the Lancet, and then the FP2 drones and other medium range Ram 2 X drones and whatnot, all these medium range drones, and then the long distance drones, the Leopards and all the weapons we talked about, and cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. That is how Ukraine prevails in this war. And once Russia is economically unviable, then they can have some kind of military movement where you would hope that it would precipitate bring about some kind of economic collapse that causes a shift in government, and maybe troops are pulled back from Ukraine. Like, that's the hope. But in order for that to even be a possibility, Ukraine has to be smacking the crap out of Russia from a distance. So my hope going forward is it's those distance munitions, and they're building their own stuff. They're also getting stuff from Europe, and they give Russia a lot to think about from a long way away.
I am I don't know. I'm the more I'm sitting here reading Russian news and Ukrainian news, I'm convinced this was absolutely a planned day for I mean, I can't really call it a false flag if it was Ukrainian drones flying that direction. And of course we can validate and prove all of that, but this is going to be really attempted to be used against Zelensky. And I think there's going to be a wall of pressure come down through, and I can't leave the story alone because it's that important. I think Dmitriev's going to be on the phone with Witkoff. I think Ushakov's going to be on the phone. I think you're going to get a wave of, see, we told you so. We told you so. And I don't know if this administration will be able to handle it.
Yeah,
I really hope the United States doesn't capitulate on Ukraine. I don't think they will, but man,
and just remember as well. Sorry to remind people about this. Well, not sorry, but I think this is important. Just remember that most of what's going on in the American government, at least, is going to be determined by the pressures coming from things like, but not only, but things like the Epstein scandal, right? So just to let you know that Marjorie Taylor Greene let out the bag today that she told the Times that when she threatened to expose the men who abused Epstein's victims, Trump called to scream at her, screaming, "My friends will get hurt." After the hearing, Green held a news conference at which she threatened to identify some of the men who had abused the woman. Green says that she didn't know these names herself, but that she could have gotten them from the victims. Trump called Green to voice his displeasure. Green was in her Capitol Hill office, and according to a staff member, everyone in a suite of rooms could hear him yelling at her as she listened to him on the speakerphone. Green says she expressed her perplexity over his intransigence. According to Green, Trump replied, "My friends will get hurt." When she urged Trump to invite some of Epstein's female victims to the Oval Office, she says he angrily informed her that they had done nothing to merit the honor. It would be the last conversation Green and Trump would ever have. Wow. So that's the kind of stuff that's also going on. So when you're seeing what Trump is doing with regard to anything, understand that underneath the bonnet there is turmoil going on with regard to potentially the explosion of the Epstein scandal to bring about the end of maybe the present government in some huge way. And then you've got economic woes, you've got the tariffs, you've got trade wars, you've got all the international diplomacy. It must be crazy town in the White House. And then, of course, most of the time he spent working out what he's doing with the bloody ballroom. But there you go.
Well, I think I could take MTG, as Cheryl Waitley said, to Ukraine, and she would be teachable right now.
I've often thought about that.
But listen, and I know there are a lot of Americans in here, a lot of international people in here. But I'm going to tell you something. The road's getting ready to get a lot bumpier on this Epstein for Trump, and it is going to affect global decisions. Just wait. It's going to. And then I'll just remind you also, the guys on the front line, I see Yana posting that in the chat right now. They're definitely not giving up. They're fighting. I'm finishing out my 2025 statement with this, so we're gonna stand with them. I'm checking everything else right now coming in.
I was just checking Trump having a hot mic rant at Netanyahu, apparently. Do I get credit for it? No. They gave the Nobel Peace Prize. I did 8 of them. How about India and Pakistan? So I did 8 of them, and then I'll tell you the rest of it. He's still banging on about not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. Man,
okay, so in that press conference they're standing there, we do have confirmation. You may have already said this, but that the U.S. has carried out its first ground strike against Venezuela.
Yeah, I think it was some port infrastructure, if I'm correct in saying.
But it's an escalation.
That was what I think Trump made that claim in a radio interview or something.
I saw the video clip here where he's standing beside Benjamin Netanyahu outside Mar-a-Lago.
So he's made, I think he was then questioned on it after he had initially said it in
very well could be, but he's confirmed it now on video.
Should we get to
let's get to it. There's lots of questions. No, we're good. Take our time. There's lots of questions to answer. And thank you. And once again, thank you to the moderators and Dunk or BB or Oink, whoever's in here. Would you mind grabbing the Discord link and drop it into the chat for me? Just want to make sure people have opportunity to join that. And
mine's in my description below, so you can check that out.
Yeah, I think mine is too, but I'm not sure because you're hosting this live. So if one of you guys would do that, that would be great.
So a big thanks to F-Oink on your behalf. 50 Greg Terry Experience memberships. That's insanely generous.
That's the Hungarian legend right there.
Absolutely. Richard Bennett, 580p Geopolitics memberships. Thank you, Richard. You are so kind, as is Richard Demi. All the Richards, indeed, are legendary. Kevin Forst, likewise. Thank you very much to you and Michael Vujar for your continued support for the channel. You guys are amazing. Goose Springsteen says, hello, guys. I've been shirking my live stream duties, but I try to never miss a JP and Greg Terry session. I reckon I'm going to have quite a few comments and questions tonight. Well, knock yourself out, matey. So thanks, Goose, for being on board, and thanks for your support. And then we have Kevin Delfix. Elected Republicans develop
back one
in 2020. Maybe develop a backbone. That might be.
Yeah.
So I was okay. What I was just going to say, and we've almost touched on this, that I was sent an email via actually Car for Ukraine by someone who said, look, the other day JP was having a rant against Trump, and it seemed like he was blaming Americans for Trump. And on the one hand, like, you can, because like America voted him in, right? So there is a kind of like, there's a collective responsibility for having democratically voted this guy in, and he was exactly as many of us said he would be. But no, I make a very clear distinction when I can, and sometimes there'll be a slip of the tongue. But just again to reiterate, when I'm attacking Trump, or the American government, I'm attacking the Trump administration, not the American people. Like, and sometimes I may make a slip up and use Americans or America or something, but I more often than not try and make a correction and say the Trump administration. And what I did want to say on with regard to this is that as well, it's worthy of note that although the Republicans in Congress appear not to have a backbone at the moment, we might hope that in 2026 they do develop a backbone, because generally the Senate and the House of Representatives are supportive of Ukraine. Trump is doing what he's doing with regard to supporting Putin over Ukraine against the will of the American people, if we can believe the polls, which we should do, I think, here, and against the will of Congress.
100%. I have to say this. That comment is accurate. And I know people may agree or disagree, but the reality is every Republican I know supports Ukraine massively. I'm not MAGA. I hate MAGA. MAGA is evil. MAGA is a cult led by a narcissistic pedophile scumbag. Can I make it any clearer for you? I'm sorry, it's the end of the year rant with JP. It's just the reality. But every Republican I personally know not only supports Ukraine with their words, but they've opened their pocketbooks to help. And I think there's going to be a shift. That's why I'm saying this Epstein thing, man. I think you've had the MAGA queen, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene, with her white fur coat on and red MAGA hat, standing up almost in contempt,
State of the Union address.
The State of the Union, screaming glory to Trump like he's Jesus. And now you see where that has ended up. Yeah. Just be patient, guys. Be patient.
Yeah, and so I think there is a permission structure that is being developed that we've seen. I mean, we saw in Indiana recently a state level where they didn't vote for the maps, and that was siding with Vice President Pence against what Trump wanted to do to gerrymander. We've heard today a similar sort of bit of rebellion by Republicans to side with Democrats in Montana. So you're getting these pockets of Republicans who are realizing that actually the midterms are looking like they're going to be an absolute disaster for the Republicans, and so they need to work out how to set their messaging, and it's not likely going to be in full alignment with Donald Trump. So you're starting to get a political landscape where Republicans are going to feel that they can, because he should be a lame duck president that ends his second term necessarily in 2028, and that actually they need to be thinking about, well, where do we take the Republican Party after this? It can't be with Trump, because it just can't, and also his message seems to be very unpopular at the moment. So yeah, you could see a backbone developing.
Well,
for the midterms.
You always have a switchback on the off year or in the midterms.
Yeah,
but you're going to see
a big one, I think.
No question.
Petra Olsson, thank you very much for the Swedish non-smoking initiative for support of your man Greg. So thank you, Petra.
Yes.
Thank you. Who do we have here? Thank you.
Robert Carmack became a YouTube member for one of us, so thank you, Robert. Realtor. Yep.
Putin has been slamming missiles and drones into civilian apartments. Is Trump not aware of this? 1,000 Russian civilians versus 14,000 Ukrainian civilians, says X-Penguin. Yep, absolutely on point there.
Well, it's not only on point, but he's right. How can you, as a sane human being, how can you look at the facts and still say yesterday in a press conference, Putin wants peace, Putin wants to help you with electricity, and Putin wants to rebuild Ukraine? This is why Zelensky made the facial expressions like,
Yeah.
He did his
Yeah.
very best. It's
That was
like,
good. I love reading Zelensky's face whenever Trump's speaking.
oh, he was
It's
having
brilliant.
nonverbal communication with his team around.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Thank you, Dunk on you, for your generosity there. Awesome for Greg gifting
Yes.
10 ATP,
One of
Greg
my
Terry
mods.
memberships
Thank you, Dunk.
and whatnot. And Papa Dutch here for you, Greg.
Twitter should be renamed Twaddle.
Twaddle. Yeah, don't get a disagreement here. Marilyn and Change Vlog says, God bless the president of all and all Ukrainians.
Amen.
Yeah, I'll leave you to do that.
Give me an amen there, Johnny. Ain't gonna happen. All right.
Amen. Zeb Carter gives 5 ATPGEO politics memberships. I mean, I was sort of there, wasn't I? F Oink gives some Hungarian love to you again. Russia wants Ukraine to succeed under Russian control. He forgot that part. Yeah, he wants it to succeed under Russian control. Yeah. Very good.
Exactly.
Very good.
Listen. And I don't want to belabor because I'm enjoying going these comments and asking questions. But guys, just think logically right now. The comments yesterday about Zaporizhia nuclear power plant shows that the president of the United States really doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's unfortunate because it also confirms that his information comes not from Ukraine. Because Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is not the largest power plant in the world. It is the 4th largest power plant in the world. And I'm not going to pick on him for that. But I will pick on him when he says, Putin's doing a good thing. He's not shooting missiles at it anymore. Okay, Putin's never shot a missile at Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. I'm not defending Putin here. I'm just stating there's no reality or understanding, especially on the big topics. Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, striking civilians. It's just kind of pushed off. But what are we going to pay attention to? Oh, Ukraine sent a drone at Putin's house. Watch what unfolds from this.
Yeah, 100%. So we got a couple of missile comments. Papa Dutch, thank you to you on Greg's behalf. An overpriced program, Tomahawks, an overpriced program fraught with cost overruns that Ukraine will surpass in performance anyway. And then one of yours, Ronald, says Storm Shadow seems to be a great alternative to Tomahawks anyway.
I will tell you, the Storm Shadows have done some devastation when they've been utilized.
Yeah, and they were so the very key moment that happened, Greg, that kind of went under the radar, quite literally, actually. So the Storm Shadows were used against a Russian hydrocarbons facility the other night, right? And it was the first time that Western provided weapons have been used to strike deep inside Russia at non-overtly military targets. So if you remember, ATACMS were allowed to be used because Biden said, well, the North Koreans have come to help the Russians, and that's when he gave permissions for ATACMS to be used, but they can only be used at things like military air bases, etc., etc. And the same was assumed for things like Storm Shadows and Scalp PGs and anything else that Ukraine got their hands on from the West. But very quietly, and this is what Ukraine should have been doing all along, and this is what the West should have been doing all along, which is giving Ukraine permission to do things, but don't shout about it and don't announce it in such a way that Russia then goes, well, you've crossed the red line. It just happens, and then a few days later, you're like, oh, I think that was a Storm Shadow. And that's what happened with the Storm Shadow striking a Russian oil refinery the other day, in that it got used, it blew up some stuff, it caused devastation, it was unable to be shot down, it's a decent bit of kit, and it blew up some non-overtly military targets. And no one really talked about it because it kind of just emerged and it was on the quiet and it was no big announcement. The problem is, when Biden says that now you can use ATACMS to do this, then it makes it a big thing. And then Russia goes, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. Everyone should have just been like, not announcing stuff the whole of the war. It should have just been like, Ukraine asks us quietly, we say quietly yes, but don't tell anyone. You blow things up, no one says anything, and maybe 3 months later someone goes, oh, I've just done some OSINT analysis, it turns out that was a Scalp PG that blew up this thing in the middle of nowhere, type affair. So Storm Shadows have been great, as you mentioned. Also worth reminding ourselves, as I told you earlier, the break stop is hopefully on its way. So the UK on the 15th of December successfully completed the first test launch of its new break stop cruise missile, a project designed to help Ukraine. The design aims for low cost and mass production with a 600-kilometer range and a 200 to 300 kilogram warhead. And I think, is it going to cost something like 400,000? Whereas a Storm Shadow costs like 2.2 million or something like that. I can't remember the exact numbers. But I mean, what you want is a missile that can be used 7 times as much as the other one for the same cost.
I just had a revelation.
Amen, brother.
Thank you. I just had a revelation. I am going to propose to you and to the people watching that the more we learn about this potential Ukrainian strike on Putin's house is not only going to be utilized to persuade Trump that Ukraine is bad from the Putin side, from the Kremlin side.
Mm-hmm.
B, it's going to be utilized to allow Russia to say we're going to do a massive strike in response to this, which they're already saying. But that's not the big one. I could be dead wrong here, but it just hit me. After the meeting yesterday, what would happen if Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin and says, you know, Vladimir, we're good friends. I really want me, you, and Zelensky to sit down. I really want me and you, Zelensky, to sit down. Let's have a chat. I'm asking you. I'm going to put as much pressure as I can to ask you. That is now 100% off the table.
And Trump could have done that. And you're quite right.
It could have happened today. So now, are you kidding me? He sent a drone at my house. I'm not talking to that dude. I think there's something.
Mate, sorry, and I just want to add on. I don't know if this is pertinent to what you just said, but have you heard what Dmitry Medvedev has just said?
No, I haven't, but I'm looking forward to hearing.
Okay, so let's read Dmitry Medvedev's statement. Remind me, he's like, what is he, Deputy National Security chappie, or he used to be, they swapped positions, didn't they? You know,
okay,
president to prime minister, prime minister to president.
He was the president of Russia.
Yep.
When he switched it off to give Putin an out where they could change the law.
Yeah.
He was the prime minister of Russia.
Yep.
They switched positions.
Yep.
And now he sits on the National Security Council and does a lot of the trips like to North Korea and the allies and is known now for his
vodka distilleries.
Yes. And what his job is to do is to do provocative statements that are very directed to get a response that come from his level, but it's not coming from Putin. It's a game.
On tap for you. Dmitry Medvedev, the stinking Kiev bastard, is trying to derail the settlement of the conflict. He wants war. Well, now at least he'll have to stay in hiding for the rest of his worthless life.
There you go. I'm telling you, man, there's going to be some dominoes falling over the next couple of days from the perception of this and how it's responded to by world leaders, specifically Donald Trump.
Wow. Yeah. Incredible.
It's coming.
Yeah. So going back to the old thankages, thank you to Johnny Nedregard,
Norwegian island dweller,
legend. So we have ex-Penguin. Feel sorry for Biden, bookended by 45 and 47 crassness. Yeah, it's a good point well made. Storm, Beer, and Summer 2025. Thank you for helping out Greg there. The reason why I left the UN was this. In my eyes, they are war criminals. They let people and children die. The UN must go in now. The fact that Russia sits as a permanent seat on the UN Security Council is still a ridiculous.
Speaks for itself.
Yeah.
My concern for the UN,
no legal
and
basis.
It's just for what I've witnessed in many times, especially down south. I mean, I could show you guys exactly where, but I won't. But basically, on the road between Mykolaiv and Kherson, which is now completely under cover of FPV drones. That's the area where I've run into the UN the most times at gas stations on that road. And I can't say they've never done anything positive because that wouldn't be fair, but I can say I've never seen them do anything positive inside Ukraine. I've seen their vehicles. I've encountered them. I've talked to them.
In one of the hotels
I've talked to them. You saw them at the hotel in Sumy. I saw them. I've talked to them in gas stations, Americans and Europeans, and I asked them what they're doing, and we're out making our reports. I said, okay, what are you doing? Making our reports. All right.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Stupidity in essence from Denmark says Trump is grasping every straw to be able to drop Ukraine, but psychologically he needs a US backed up reason. But when you have exposed yourself as a liar, then nobody believes in you anymore. Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with a problem like Trump? Goodness me. But yes, well said. And also to add to that, he says, again, the red lines are only for Ukraine, not for Russia, according to Donald J. Trump. So now Russia has legalized the strike against Zelensky. This is it. Like the red lines only appear. So it's the same with the peace negotiations, which is that Ukraine is expected to pull out their troops from Donbass, but Russia, no, that's not on the cards. And it's always Ukraine having to make the concessions, never the Russians.
Their own sovereign Ukrainian territory.
It's absolutely insane. It's
come on.
Honestly, it's ridiculous. The whole peace negotiation, the premise of all of these points of the peace negotiation, it just
completely
makes me
agree
mad.
there,
Absolutely
Papa Dutch.
makes me mad. Papa Dutch says, in order to make America great again, it seems to me one first must ruin it, at which Trump seems to be highly successful. Interesting point. F. Oink says millions are living in a nightmare. Can we wake up now? It's like, how do we get to this timeline? Like, what? Yeah. So Christine McDonald for you says, okay, need to get ready for work from the Scottish Tartan Terrier.
Thank you, Christine McDonald.
Greg doing a live stream during his live stream, says F. Oink.
Yes, I did. I did a live stream of live during the live stream. That was during the Tinkle break.
Right. Okay. Very nice. Right. I get it. A live stream. Right. Yeah.
There you
clever,
go.
F. Oink.
I got the best mods, dude. They catch everything.
And Mark Biscuit, we've already had this one, but thanks, Mark. Putin is desperate. He is at the most. Yeah, so I see it like, what's the analogy? An injured tiger or an injured animal that when it's cornered, it's more likely to lash out more. And I've said this. I did a video on this called the Putin paradox. That the more Putin is pushed into, the more that Ukraine win, essentially, or the weaker Russia becomes, the more likely they are to do something nuts. And that is definitely a potential for this winter, as Mark Biscu says. He also goes on to say, Putin,
before you finish that with Mark, I'm reading right now because Medvedev's tweet just went out. So Ukrainian guys I trust and follow are saying very clearly, they said, does the world recognize that this is Russian mediation at its finest, telling that the president of a nation now has to live in hiding? Okay, so Ukrainians are on it, man, and saying this, you can't disregard what he's saying.
But the problem is this kind of normalized. It's a bit like Trump. When Trump says something nuts, right, that the international community should in their right mind go, what are you talking about, you absolute dingbat, right? You are mental. This is not what the president of the United States should be saying. No, it is just normalized insanity. It was the same with Medvedev, which is he so often says stuff like this that actually the international community just sort of ignores it. Whereas actually we should be going, hang on, you can't say that. What? And then pining in to support Ukraine more.
Okay, Russia taking it to the next level now. Now they're talking that Zelensky tried to kill Putin.
Good.
So not just the strike on his residence, but now they're taking it to the next level where it was an attempted assassination.
Well, yeah, okay. If it was, that's what, 20-1. So
exactly.
Get over it, mate. You reap what you sow, sunshine. You reap what you sow. Mark Biscu, Putin knows he can't defeat Ukraine now. His ambition is to redefine its existence in a way that benefits Russia and in a way that allows him to take it all later. He feels he can do this with help from Trump. Really well reasoned statement there, Mark. And Mark and Olena, I need to get you on for a live stream again. So let's do that.
Oh, man, please do that. Let me know that, Johnny, because I would love to jump on at that time and say hello to them.
Yeah. Let's do it together. So Mark and Olena, if you're up for that, we'll just have an update. We haven't spoken probably live for over a year now.
That would be fantastic.
That, and we'll see how you feel about the war.
And I hope mom and dad are doing okay at their home there.
Julian Ross. Yes, absolutely. Julian Ross says the money from the EU will give the funds for Ukraine to continue for 2 more years. There will be a different world leaders in power. 2 years is a long time when you're in your late 70s and early 80s. That is true. I mean, my worry is about the dissolution of the EU, or the unity in the EU that the US and Russia are working hard to bring about. So you can see that, you know, Poland's in an interesting place. Your Czechia's just taken a rather bad turn. But then on the other hand, Peter Magyar, if he wins in April in Hungary, Hungary is going to be a very different place as well. So that's interesting. So, you know, possibly swings and roundabouts, as we say. Papa Dutch for you says the other notion is, how old are those Tomahawks anyway? How long have they been in storage? Well, we just saw the other day that on Christmas Eve they launched something like 15 Tomahawks into a village in Nigeria. Did apparently absolutely nothing. Didn't strike. They're using old intelligence. Was not. And 3 warheads were unexploded, which percentage-wise is not good. Anyway.
That's all of that's fine, and and thank you, Papa Dutch. But here's what you need to remember. It's not about it's old or it's not as good as newer modern stuff. It's about the principle that the U.S. would sell or give Tomahawks to Ukraine. It's just 100%. The principle there, which is much more important. I mean, be great, but that's the issue there. When you talk about weapons, it's like the Patriots. Okay, the Patriots are great, and we need more supply for them. They can't take out everything, but it's great. So that was a game changer. And then you had the Attack'ems, and then the Storm Shadow. But this Tomahawk, it's not so much, we'd have 50 Tomahawks. It would be the United States gave Kyiv Tomahawks.
Yeah.
It'll never happen now.
No.
After last night.
Papa Dutch, there's no way they would send the newest and best, or them at all, to be honest, Papa Dutch. Trump wants Ukraine EU to buy the old junk. So this will be with
and for that, I would say, listen, you're right. And Ukraine, over the time of this war, has had to deal with stuff coming in, not only from the United States, but even from other nations that they've had to repair as it came in. That's just the way it is. But let me tell you something. Old is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And I we want the best, but right now we'll take anything.
Yeah, absolutely. How much is a 20-year-old car worth, consider, says Papa Dutch. So moving on to stupidity in essence, says the US administration have already capitulated on Ukraine. I think it's been a series of capitulations over the last 11 months, unfortunately. That Putin is saying his house was attacked is complete desperation from Putin. He's going to use all the lies in his KGB playbook to divert the pressures in his country that are his fault. Slava Ukraini.
Dunk on you.
Right, dunk on you. Yep.
100%. 100%.
Being a popular vote, says Papa Dutch, I see it as a failure of the American educational system. Yeah, well, we can get into why there was this movement to get Trump voted in. You know, there's been lots of analyses on that for the past 11 months. Pyro Kurt Brubaker says, how do you really feel, Greg? But are you but you are 100% right.
Another one of my great mods there. Go ahead and rant. Yeah, I think that's when I was getting lit a little bit about President Trump. Happy New Year's, everyone. Geruim Slava. Thank you, Kurt. And once again, I know there's a super chat coming from I think Australia. I'm not sure. I saw it pass by quickly because Johnny's hosting this, so I'm looking at different screens. But just once again, thank you to moderators, guys.
Absolutely, thank you all. Just Not Good says, Putin wants peace, a piece of Ukraine, a piece of Poland, a piece of Germany. Very well said. I like a good bit of, what is it, homophone, or is it a homonym? It's a homophone. That's a homophone. So Wizard of Ooze said, in reality, it's a Trump derangement syndrome. MAGA doesn't understand apostrophes. It's Trump's derangement syndrome. That's nice. I see what he did there. Yeah, it's not the Trump derangement syndrome. It's Trump's derangement syndrome. He is deranged. Papa Dutch, a piece of Moldova, a piece of Georgia, a piece, if not all, of Ukraine, a piece of Africa. Likewise, adding to that. So thank you, Papa Dutch.
History speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people cannot see it.
So this is interesting. Seabass Smith says, Russia just made up a story saying how Ukraine attacked Putin's home. I voted for Trump, but I'm shocked how ridiculous he is acting. Yeah, and thank you for admitting that, and I completely agree.
Thank you, Seabass Smith, 7487. And Yeah. In fact, I think it's Seabass heading to Kyiv. My memory could be wrong on that one, but
Interesting.
thank you. It's I'm going to stand by what I said earlier. The last 3 days, Putin in the uniform, fight on, the meeting in Mar-a-Lago with Zelensky, and today the strike, and I with quotation marks on Putin's house, or attempted. You're going to see some serious adjustments from a lot of places after these 3 days. It's going to happen.
Robo Kilroy, thank you for the super sticker from Canada. For Greg, we have Greg's Linda S.
There you go. Linda S, Australia. Yep.
Thank you for all your work and keep this a cohesive and enjoyable place to meet. We appreciate you all.
Linda sent me a picture one time on our Discord, and it was her like Ukrainian wall with flags and patches and all of her support she's done. So thank you, Linda, for standing with Ukraine and supporting so many projects. And you are a legend.
Okay. Adam Rounds says Witkoff saying Ukraine's land is in Russian constitution. Wasn't it in Ukraine first? Well, yeah. I mean,
yes.
Don't get me started on Steve Witkoff. I don't have enough energy left to rant about him. Little Whiskey Shop. Hey, Mark, is it time for Europe and Ukraine to tell Trump to back off and for us to step up, put troops into Ukraine to man borders and do rear area and deep logistics? By the way, go to atpgeo.com/donate and you get to our fundraiser. If you go to atpgeo.com/UK petition, you can find Mark's petition. And it'd be lovely if I can put that up for your audience to look at as well, to be able to
please do
sign his petition that he has.
If you send me the link, I'll put it in my chat. Send it on WhatsApp.
Yeah. So it is. Well, it is atpgeo.com/UK petition. And I'm writing that in the live chat. So anyway, this is so just before we read his comment. This is the petition for UK defensive border monitoring and rear logistics support to Ukraine. So let's please share this, get it signed by as many people as possible. Humanitarian benefits, risk mitigation, legal basis, and NATO framework. Mark himself is a former member of the armed forces as well, so he knows what he's talking about.
Thank you, F-Wink. Let me tell you how good how good these moderators are. I was asking you to send it to me. Mods are already going to your channel, getting it and dropping it in my chat. Thank you, guys. You rock.
So the thing about this, Mark, and this is like what I talk about so often, and my peeps have heard me talk about this an awful lot, which is, if Europe could and Ukraine could just stick their fingers up to Trump and say, sod off, Trump, we don't want you anymore, we don't need America, they would, because actually America's being the Trump administration is being counterproductive with regard to Ukraine. But the problem is, if they do that, they push the United States to do things that are even more counterproductive by siding with the US, lifting sanctions on Lukoil and Rosneft, just going to town on supporting basically the Russian economy, and then you're allowing their corporations to go back into Russia. And so no doubt Europe knows this, right? My mantra is you would if you could, you aren't so you can't. So if you would do that, if you could do that, you would do it. You aren't doing it, and that's showing us that you can't do it. So the UK, Europe, Ukraine, Norway, Canada, all allies of Ukraine can't afford to tell Trump to go and do one, because it is still too dangerous to do that. I mean, it is time. So in principle, like, it is time to do that. If Trump just took his toys and went home, right? Took his ball, took his jumper, and walked from the park back to his house, and I'm not playing football anymore. That's fine, brilliant. But he wouldn't do that. He would go the other way. He joins the other team.
This gets into a complete. This opens up an entirely new conversation, especially after reading the 2025 National Security Report for the United States, where we're basically going back to the Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah.
Monroe
Doctrine. Yeah.
And getting back where, Western Hemisphere, we got to look at South America, Latin America. We got to take care of this. EU is really irrelevant. European nations are irrelevant.
It's a dangerous. They're adversaries.
Adversaries. Yeah. Thank you. So you're talking about a very, very dangerous world. And I'm really concerned that it would be very detrimental to global relations if the United States exited stage left.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know,
yes.
I know in some ways it's like, okay, just exit, and Europe and Ukraine are going to find a way to figure this out.
And
I understand that.
Like Europe,
I understand that.
Europe, if Europe really backed Ukraine to the hilt and said to the US, please go away, Ukraine could prevail, I think.
I agree.
But Trump wouldn't do that, and he would just be. He loves retribution. He also loves making money, and he would get retribution on Europe. He wants Europe to dissolve, and he wants Russia. He wants to get into bed with Russia, and so that's what would happen. And that's when you get back to conversation about whether Congress would let him or not.
He is. All right, I'm just going to say it straight out. He is covering up the Epstein files through his team because he wants more time to seek retribution on those that he feels attacked him for the last 4 years.
And that's basically what Susie Wiles said.
Evil.
It's all about retribution.
Yes, he's vindictive.
Yeah.
And would I ever want him on my team? No, I would actually want him on the opposite team because I know how to play that type of personality. And Vladimir Putin knows how to play against that personality. So, yeah. And Zelensky has to be careful because, once again, we come back to yesterday. Zelensky did a phenomenal job. There was not a war. There was not a fight. There was not a disagreement. There was a nice lunch. There was conversation. And it's just terrible. You have to treat Donald Trump that way.
Thank you, Mark, for that. And here's Ecomorph saying from Chicago, thanks to both of you for your tireless work on behalf of Ukraine. Thank you. And thank you, Ecomorph, for your support as well. It means a lot on viewership. Thank you. Papa Dutch, I hope everyone is getting lots of time off in New Year's. Cheers, everyone, and happy holidays.
Yes, thank you for that. And happy New Year's to you, Papa Dutch.
And we've got the last four for you here. Greg, so Octavian Timisurianu, I don't know. Octavian
5810
Tim is, or I don't know, like how you split that up. But anyway, geopolitics will reshuffle within the next 2 years. Some countries that support Ukraine today will step back, while others that currently don't will step in. The issue is, what will the net result be? That depends really on European unity. And honestly,
and that depends on which nations step back and which nations step forward.
But yes, exactly. And a key thing to look out for, I know 2027 might seem a long way away, but when the presidential elections come up in France, if you get someone from Rassemblement National, who is the Eurosceptic party, becoming president of France, which is very likely, it might not be Marine Le Pen because she's barred from running because of
it's a Romanian
court case, but it's going to be Jordan Bardella probably. So she anyway.
Okay, it's a Romanian name. Put it back up there for me. I'm going to try it. So it's definitely Octavian.
Timisurianu.
5810. Anyway, thank you. And speaking about that, how the world's going to reshape in a couple of years. Who in here watching would you have ever thought on March, April 2022 that we would be sitting here December the 29th, 2025, looking at the last 3 days and moving into year 4 of this war? Nobody would have taken that bet.
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. And the Ukraine could still be fighting against the might of Russia in that time, like you said earlier, the Ukrainian armed forces. And, General Syrskyi gets a bad rap, and certain commanders. And we have this... I think because we're also supportive of Ukraine, and we also we continually watch films where the good guys generally win, right? And there's always happy endings. War is difficult. War is really ugly, and you have huge losses as well as wins, right? The Second World War, think of how many times British, American, Allied generals and commanders made really bad decisions that cocked up, made mistakes. That for whatever reason, right? Ukraine will be doing all of that. Like this idea that Ukraine is going to be perfect in their defense of their nation is just completely unrealistic. But we get sucked into the idea that because we love them so much, we can't imagine and we can't handle Ukraine doing badly ever on a battlefield. But they will make cock-ups. I think the 2023, but this was under Zelensky. I think the Zelensky 2023 counterattack was poorly thought out and in the wrong place, and was not good. Attacking near south of Orikhiv towards Tokmak was the wrong place to attack. It was the most heavily defended area. You want to attack in the weakest places. Listen to Sun Tzu. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, you were going to say?
I want to try the Romanian name one more time. Octavian Timorescu. Leaving it at that. I had to get the she in there. So Octavian, hopefully that did even better. I love the language. So,
but my point was going to be that
100%, brother.
And Syrskyi gets a bad rap, but actually, I think Pokrovsk has been something of a success. It's going to sound really controversial, but I think it sucked in Russian forces just like Krinky did, and just like Bakhmut did, particularly in the first two-thirds of Bakhmut. And you've got to fight somewhere. All these people that say, "Oh, they should have pulled out of Pokrovsk. They should have pulled out." Okay, you pull out, then the Russians will follow you, and then you're fighting in somewhere else further back, and then you're like, "They've got to pull out." Well, you're fighting in Kiev. You've got to fight somewhere, and if you've got existing defenses, and then you can, as you fix the Russians in, say, Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, then they're driving in their forces. You're taking them out with your drones, and you're building more and more defenses further back, just in case you do lose Pokrovsk, which you almost certainly will eventually. And I just think that people call Syrskyi the butcher and like yada yada yada, but war is difficult, and actually the Ukrainians have done a really damn good job. I don't know if that includes Syrskyi. I don't know enough about military tactics to know whether Zaluzhny was any better than Syrskyi was any better than Zaluzhny. I guess history will tell.
Well, I can just tell you from my experience there, soldiers, especially early in the war, really like the personality of.
That's the key. I've said this before. Yeah.
Of Zaluzhny versus the personality of Syrskyi. Yeah. But the reality is, you made a lot of good statements there, and there will always be different viewpoints on leadership. We've been sitting here discussing Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky. That's just the way life is and humanity is. But you're right. I mean, Ukraine has defended well. They've pulled off incredible military operations inside Russia, and I know that's functions with different groups, with the SBU and National Police and intelligence. But at the end of the day, he's there. He's doing the best he can. And who's going to want to spin that the most? That he's horrible? Russia. Russia will want to spend that the most, that he's horrible. Get rid of him. He's destroying the Ukrainian army. They'll amplify that. Why will they amplify that? Because they just want to bring confusion to the enemy. So you always have just. With the Kremlin, I've been working in Russia since 1994. So it's 31 years. With the Kremlin, you cannot think only what you see. You have to think in levels and layers to try and begin to understand them.
Yeah.
Everything is calculated. Everything is calculated. And I'm not giving them kudos for that. I'm just telling you how they operate. It's obvious.
Yeah.
We were told about this decades ago in the 80s, and whatever his name was, Yuri
Betsetnov.
Yes.
Forget his name.
Yeah. Bezimov. Something like that. Anyway, you guys know. Somebody will put it in the chat.
I was just going to Google it. So Nadia Kolakowski says, Putin must go, keep on, aim better. Don't disagree with you there, Nadia. Thank you on Greg's behalf. Seabass Smith says, should I have been even more worried about being in Ukraine now that this has happened? Ooh. So obviously, as you said, Seabass was on the way to Ukraine. Might well be that Seabass is indeed.
Seabass, if you remember what I told you in that message, and that was, it's Yuri Bezmenov, by the way. And I told you, listen to me, guys. If any of you are in Ukraine right now, or you're going there, it's changed. If you hear the air alarm signal, go to the safe place.
Yep.
That's it. Go to the safe place.
Especially tonight. Right. Yeah. But obviously, always. Robo Kilroy, thank you for your Canadian support for Greg there. And also to Frankie 2026, it says, if the Democrats manage to win a majority in the 2026 midterms, do you believe they will do everything to help Ukraine and prevent Trump from continuing his relations with Putin? I would hope so. The question is, what can they do, though? Because at the moment, what Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation set out to do is something called the unitary executive theory, which is to focus power into the executive, i.e. the White House, and away from Congress and away from the judiciary. And they're doing that while also getting control over the media landscape and lower judiciary as well, where they can. So, which is an ongoing battle, because actually courts seem to be the only institutions that are holding Trump to account and stopping from doing everything that he wants to do. The courts are the last bastion, and they are sort of holding out, which is good. But I think that the midterms will be a disaster for Trump if particularly if the economy doesn't pick up. The economy stays as it is. So he keeps talking about 4.3% rise in GDP, but actually what you've got is a rise in GDP, but no rise in personal income growth. And you've got this divergence. I talked about this the other day. Economically speaking, you are starting to see there being economic growth, but no growth in jobs. And how does that work? Well, actually, AI, tech companies, loads of money swirling around the economy from a big tech point of view, but it doesn't translate into more people having jobs and those jobs being better paid. And so he can talk about GDP being improved, but actually it's not quite. You need to look at devil's in the details, right? But if people are hurting in a pocket, if the tariffs aren't, he might try and bribe people with checks, because that's basically what he's done with farmers and elsewise. But
well, let me say one thing as an American. First of all, he will become a lame duck president, but I don't even want to speculate out that far. There is going to be a major slapback come the midterm elections. It's going to happen. So we can prognosticate that, but maybe let's look at it from a little bit of a different angle. I personally feel, I'm going to make a kind of a metaphor here. I think we will have a decade's worth of history happen in the next 11 months before that election even takes place. I think we're going to be looking at a completely different world come November in the election time for the United States. And you may say, well, that's a big statement. 10 years of history unfolding in 1 year. Oh, I do. And it could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. Guys, if I would have told you on Friday, listen, if I would have told you on Friday, hey, Putin's going to show up in his uniform and talk about continuing the war and go troops go, and then on Saturday and on Sunday in front of the world at a press conference, standing beside President Zelensky, Donald Trump is going to say, hey, I had a talk with Putin. He wants peace in Ukraine. He wants to build Ukraine. He wants Ukraine to be successful. And then on Monday, drones are going to fly over Putin's home, and they're going to call it an assassination attempt by Zelensky, and he better go and hide. How many of you would have believed that would have been the 72 hours of current events? Nobody. Yeah. So
crazy times.
We are entering into a phase, and it's going to amplify quicker and quicker and quicker. Because a year ago, we didn't have Venezuela. We didn't have an envoy to Greenland. We didn't have China and Taiwan ramping up like crazy right now. We didn't have China and Taiwan. Yeah. We didn't have Iran saying, you know what, we're not done yet. We got missiles everywhere. It's just, this is what we have, guys. And time's just going to.
And the problem is, like, this is how, this is kind of the fire hose of craziness that's going on in the United States, that actually you can see this on a domestic as well as an international front, which is so much is happening domestically in the US that the media can't keep up. So it used to be that one of the 200 things that Trump's done over the last 11 months, one of those would have been like 3 months worth of news in 40, 50 years ago, right? But we're at this stage where just stuff is happening at this just incredible velocity. And this is what Steve Bannon was talking about. And Trump is getting away with so much because he's just doing even more the next day. And then you're like, okay, that's crazy. And then the next day, even more. And then you can't focus on stuff that happened previously.
Man, first of all, 95% of the news, according to Donald Trump, is fake news. Okay? And he berates people. I don't care if they are not qualified and 100% your enemy. You don't berate them. You're the president of the United States. You deal with that in private. But here's the deal. Everything is fake. Only what I tell you is truth. I mean, we even have the executive branch right now basically in control of the judicial department in the United States. Okay? So if you think we're going to be in the same world in a week from now or a month from now, and we look ahead 11 months, no, it's I don't see how it gets any better. I don't think Donald Trump's just going to wake up and come to the light. And if these health issues that are being reported on so much, whether it's the hand, or it looks like he's being treated for pre-dementia, or the behavior patterns are there, I can tell you the behavior patterns are there because my mother-in-law has pre-stage dementia. I see a lot of similar patterns.
My dad does.
I see a lot of similar
dementia.
patterns. Okay, so all I can do is say I see similar patterns. But if that's true, my goodness, what's he going to be like in 3 months, 6 months?
Yeah.
So,
and yesterday, apparently, in the did he reference this in the press conference as well? Like on the phone call with Putin, Trump was talking about how had this shared regard for Michael Weiss says yesterday. Trump said he and Putin bonded over their shared denial that the GRU interfered with the US presidential election in 2016, one of the most well-documented events of that year. Today, Trump credits Putin's claim that Ukrainian drones targeted Putin's residence in Novgorod, even though Russia's MOD and the Novgorod regional governor had no information about any such attack. So, he's just like, Putin agrees with me that the American election was stolen in 2020 and it was all a Russia hoax in 2016 and blah blah blah. So he's just so on board with whatever Putin has to say, because Putin knows which triggers to press that gets Trump in the palm of his hand.
That's what I told you. Listen, he sat there yesterday, and I don't know the exact number, but it was multiple times, standing beside the president of Ukraine, where he just blathers on about everything's a Russia hoax, Russia hoax. And the man standing beside him recognizes that these missiles are raining down, and Trump views anything, and maybe anything's too strong, but a majority of the information coming in about Russia through sources as a hoax, a Democratic lie, a setup. How do you negotiate with that? You can't. You just can't.
So last few
yes, sir.
Thanks to be had. Daryl Curlson for you.
Oh, by the way,
sorry,
Daryl, I try to keep with you my besties, and I've been missing you, Greg. Miss you too, Daryl. You and Jonathan make a good team. You both give it to us straight. Thank you. Let me give one more straight to you.
Ooh.
If something was to happen medically, for example, to Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance comes into power, just so you know, he hates Ukraine. It's unfair for me to say.
J.D. Vance
he's much
option,
more
arguably.
He's a much worse option. Yes.
Yeah. He's ideologically against Ukraine.
That's a better way. That's
Trump
a better way to say it.
Is against Ukraine for like weird reasons, like he likes dictators and he wants to make money and all sorts of other kind of reasons. And Zelensky and 2019 and impeachment. Little Whiskey Shop, Mark, elbows up. We can still prosper without the USA. Yes, I agree. Time to stand up to Trump and stop worrying. We are capitulating. Be strong from form Creato to replace NATO, or CATO, sorry. So that's probably Central Europe, and I don't know what that stands for. But obviously, Canada will be Canada, Europe. I don't know. Whatever that stands for, but then is NATO's days numbered? Will there be a European replacement to that? Thank you, Mark. Linda S for you, gifting 20 Greg Terry memberships there.
I'm telling you, she rocks, man. Thank you, Linda.
And just a few more. Michelle Deval, what would happen if the coalition of the willing would be putting boots on the ground or planes in the air right now? Putin says we're already at war, so what difference would that make? Personally, I don't think any, because Putin, right, what more can Putin do in terms of so you would if you could, you answer you can't. So Putin is at the moment using as much stuff against Ukraine as possible. He maybe could just, as we might expect over the next few days, strike at government infrastructure and stuff like that they haven't already done. But essentially, like they're maxing their missiles and weapons against Ukraine because they need to keep some in store for if they ever do get into a fracas with NATO or other countries, right? So they need a strategic stockpile, but they are essentially operating pretty much at max. So yeah, what else would they do if Europe brought in some fighter planes into Western Ukraine? Well, I don't think anything, apart from maybe try and shoot down European stuff. So I think we should be ballsy and we need to be giving red lines to Russia, and we just haven't been doing that. We need to be saying very clearly to Russia, if you strike tonight, NATO should come out and say, if you strike government facilities in Ukraine, we will put planes in Western Ukraine to protect civilian and industrial infrastructure. There you go.
Who has to say that?
Mark Rutte, but again,
exactly.
Trump,
Pause.
But NATO, that would have to come from America, so it would have to be bilateral. It had to be
So you're telling
Germany,
me and nothing against Mark Rutte, I don't know the guy, but you're telling me that Mark Rutte, who called Trump daddy, is the one's going to have to say that.
Yeah. So Trump would never agree to that. So it can't be NATO. It would have to be European bilateral kind of.
And then forces. You have the complete destruction of European American relations.
Yeah.
Because Trump's not going.
Yeah.
All they want to do is get a direct flight back from Moscow to DC now.
But then the other hand, the comeback to that is like, well, you're the ones that told us to stand up on our own 2 feet, Donald. You said we're not paying enough for this. We're not doing blah, blah, blah. You said you want a European SACEUR. You want a European NATO commander now. Well, we're showing you that we can do this on our own. Thank you very much. And now you're saying that you want to control us. So hang on. What, these two, that kind of situation.
Look.
Yeah.
While Ukraine keeps defending.
Yeah. Crusader63com says, as always, gentlemen, excellent analysis.
Thank
First,
you.
when does EU, GB, Canada, Australia, Japan, Korea set up NATO 2.0? Well, just what we were talking about there. So well timed.
Good timing on that. And let me tell you something, for NATO 2.0, Ukraine better be in that. Let me tell you.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agreed. Good point. And his second point is, God bless you both.
And
I thank you. She likes me, so that's all right. It's all about God.
God bless you too, my friend, and may the higher ups of the planet Uranus smile on Jonathan Pierce tonight as he tipples when he concludes the stream.
I'm getting a planetary Mooney by the sounds of it with Uranus up there. So the little whiskey shop, Mark, again, don't think Congress will allow Trump to screw Ukraine. That's our only hope. That's our only hope. But can they stop him?
Pause.
Because they were already screwing
Ukraine.
So they're not stopping him.
Pause. You're talking about the same Congress that voted with only one no vote to release the Epstein files completely unredacted? And that Congress,
and they suddenly found another million files.
You're talking about that
documents.
You're talking about that Congress.
Sorry,
and it's my own country, and I love my country, and I'm just, that's why I said, forget trying to prognosticate about November 2026. We better be looking for December the 30th, because this is the same Congress that basically unanimously only one no. Release it. Let's get this cleaned up.
Yeah, and even Bill Clinton said release the files, and he's in them, right? I think it's very interesting that Pam Bondi said, "Oh, there's nothing to see here." Kash Patel, nothing to see here, and then made these big claims about the files, but don't appear to know what's in the files, and also didn't realize that there are another million documents that was at the Southern District in New York had. What?
I don't want to keep us going, and we're going to a different topic, and it's okay. It's all connected when it comes down to it. But listen to me. Dan Bongino is out come January 1st.
Yeah, he's gone, and that tells you all you need to know.
That tells you all you need to know. And I'm not defending Bongino, but it was Bongino who upped this, being the podcaster,
100%.
Republican,
100%.
Epstein. He's seen the inside now. He has seen the inside, and at least he has the character to resign.
Yeah,
that's where I'll leave that.
Stupidity in essence says the US needs to reform their democracy. I would say, yeah, the electoral college needs reform. Papa Dutch says, how many attempts has Mordor made to take out Zelensky? I've lost count. That's what we said earlier.
Yep.
Mark Biscu, again, thanks, mate. Thanks, gentlemen. I will be in touch with you, JP, regarding the live stream. Would love it if Greg was there too. Absolutely going to happen 100%.
Well, as Starsky and Hutch would say, book it, Dano.
Yeah, do it. Although that's the most modern iteration of Starsky and Hutch. I watched that with my boys the other day. Right, sorry, Ben Stiller and Thingy Jobby Wilson.
I'm in the 70s, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're the original. And
yeah, Rick from Netherlands, great comment coming in here late.
Papa Dutch, Vance might be a lot easier to impeach. Interesting approach.
Well, that would be true.
You know, they exist, says deserves more quoting here. Jeff's test pilot. I don't know, because I admit I can't read all the live chat, so obviously they've said something.
Shout out to Jeff's
decent.
Test pilot.
Yeah, he's said some great things already today. Doris today says F1. Yeah, I've left her. She's next door. I'll bring her into a conversation at a later date. Good old Doris. Rick from the Netherlands says,
there you go.
F1. Rutte knows that pressuring the Trump administration like that is the end of NATO. Yeah, his job is to keep NATO together.
That's right.
Europe has to step up and enroll Plan B as if the US has left. So this is where you need a European army, which is then when you have Gardner coming out today and saying that a European army is against America's interests, because, of course, America's interests are in NATO. And if NATO doesn't exist because the Europeans say, well, it's useless, it's not doing its job, we're going to have a European army, then the US don't get to dictate to Europe how to react in a situation like this, right? So at the moment,
Hawaii 5-0.
Trump gets to dictate whether we support Ukraine by sending planes in, because he says NATO, it should be a unanimous decision. It's not going to happen, whereas a European defensive force can do that. And those two things are at odds. Anyway, yeah.
I stand corrected. Hawaii 5-0. Book him, Dano. There you go.
Yeah. Sort it out with your American knowledge.
Thank you.
Gee whiz. Okay, and finally, Susan... is it Susan Yantha or is it
Susan Yantha 4074?
Susan Yantha or is it Susan Yanth? Anyway,
it's got to be Susan Yantha.
Indeed. My wishes and prayers for Ukraine, total peace.
Amen to that, Susan.
Yeah, something like that for sure. Excellent. Thank you, Susan. And M. de Velden, super kind of you. Rutte role is holding NATO together. Exactly what we
100%.
Just saying. So thank you. That's really, really generous of you as well. So thank you.
Linda S. Gifting 20 memberships to ATPGEO Politics.
Oh, Linda.
Australian love coming in there. Thank you, Linda.
Beautiful Aussie love. Look, don't make me do it. Don't make me do it, Linda. Oh, mate. Oh, that's bloody great, mate. Look, you flaming hoon. I really appreciate your ATP geopolitics memberships. And
I can say
an excuse to speak Aussie.
I can say that I actually have a Australian moderator. His name's Skeghead. He's been with me when I first started streaming and had 3 viewers. It was my mother, my wife, and Skeghead. And he found me somehow, and he's been with me ever since. So I love my Aussies.
Stone the crows, mate. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you for allowing me that little.
Yeah, this was great, guys. Thank you. JP, we've been going 2.5 hours. I think we did a good job covering the end of the year, looking into 2026. And guys,
my partner's probably disowned me. But,
stay tuned. Seabass Smith, as a conservative, I've always seen the Russians as an enemy, especially being in Ukraine myself. I just don't understand why these in office can't see it. Yeah, especially if, I don't know how old you are, but, if you grew up as I did, late 70s and the 80s and the Cold War, JP, I know you experienced it, the movie Red Dawn, and the list goes on and on. It's the world we were in, and it's just unfortunate this is where we're at today. But listen, we're all standing together and fighting for the best.
Throw some shrimps on the barbie. Look, just before we go, thanks, Rick. Just before we go, I just want to, if I can, Greg, remind people of I know that you've got your own
thank you.
Fundraiser that is ongoing or just about to start. Sorry.
No, it has started. The video went up, so you guys can go back on my previous video, and the link is there. I can, and
if you go to Yeah, sorry, Kevin.
Yeah. So anyway, it's there. Actually, JP, I'll give you the link so you can pop it up too. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you go to atpgeo.com/donate, you will come to this page, which is the Christmas tree trucks. We are at just over 8,000 spondoolies towards our 11,000 goal for a truck for the 93rd Brigade, the Kolodny Yar Black Raven Unmanned Systems Battalion. If you can help out with that, that will be absolutely phenomenal. Cheryl, one of my mods, has whacked that up on the live chat, so thank you for doing that. That is our fundraiser.
And coming to you real quick, check your WhatsApp there.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started, but it looks like to me we've already raised 10,000 euros on that. So thank you guys. We're going to help project. So just so you know, this was initiated in the heart of Pete, and we're partnering with Gertis and Project Constantine. We have to finish this, and I have to be able to call Ma Rose and say, Ma, which is Pete's mom, we got her done. And so thank you guys for helping that.
Brilliant stuff. So we've got a Car for Ukraine and a Project Constantine.
Yes.
2 ones going on. Whatever you donate to, it makes you awesome in our eyes. So
yeah.
Thank you.
And on ours, if you donate $100, you'll be getting a Project Constantine patch. And Team PK with Yana and Galina will be sending those out. So thank you.
And likewise with the Car for Ukraine one,
yes.
They've got patches as well and all the usual stuff there. So that's absolutely fab. Look, mate, thank you very much for your time. Sorry it's been such a long one. Sorry, not sorry. It allows us to just vomit out
JT8833. Sure would be great if you guys could do more of these. Oh, we always say we got to do more. So we'll do our best in 2026 to do more. And now so many messages coming in. Thanks, Greg. Love to Pete's mom. Dude. United we stand for Ukraine. Thanks, Greg, for keeping the memory of Pete alive. Yes, we're going to finish Pete's vision there.
Just on the previous point, and not to take away from the memory of Pete,
yeah.
But are you saying that next year, as a New Year's resolution, I've got to do even more talking? Like,
no.
Just
it's even worse. It's even worse. It's even worse. You have to do more talking with me.
Talking and listening? I can't.
Together with all of these wonderful people. Yes.
Well, look, here's you. Cheers. Happy New Year.
How to get a Project Constantine patch. The links in the description, and for a donation of $100 to help finish Pete's dream, a PK Project Constantine patch will be sent out. That's how. So thank you guys.
Awesome sauce. Well, look, thank you. Thanks, everyone. This collaboration has been with the help of you guys in the live chat and the mods and all the legends. Take care. Spare a thought for those who are fighting in the trench lines and the tree lines or cowering in buildings tonight. As every night, spare a thought for them as we sit in the warmth and drink our whatever you're drinking. Spare a thought for those far less fortunate than ourselves.
I'm sipping on a little coffee. It is 25 degrees, heavy wind, snow and ice outside. So thank you. All right, guys, be blessed.
Take care. Toodle pips.
Thank you.
Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава, разом до перемоги.
What he said.